Folks, welcome to your Thursday. This is So Bad It's Good, and this is our final The Valley Season 2 recap. We are covering the third part of the reunion, and we are going to cover it with gusto, baby. We did it. I mean, I can't tell you, it feels like the last day of school. Remember that? The last day of school, and you got there and you realized you only had like 7 more hours, which is pretty much the length it takes me to do this podcast, and especially when it's the Valley. And then you're free. You have the whole summer ahead of you. Now I know we're in August. I don't have the whole summer ahead of me, but you get the drift, right? We did it. We made it through the toxicity. We made it through the show that had Ryan Bailey. Yes, I'm referring to myself in the third person. It made Ryan Bailey question, you know what? Do you actually really like reality TV? Do you like it? I don't know if you like it. It seems like you might not like it. It's the show that has made me question my love of reality television. Of course, I'm obviously being a little silly. I do love reality television, but there is something about this show, and I guess maybe in the So Bad It's Good way, is that it's so toxic that it does make it extremely watchable, and it makes it something that I think I could talk about endlessly. But there is something that just leaves you so unsatisfied, and I think maybe that's why the podcast for me helps, because it fills that feeling out where I'm able to actually make it into something that I can still laugh about or try to find little things that I find ridiculous about it. And we can come here and commune together and talk about it and make it a little better of an experience. So maybe this is like that 360 viewing that I always talk about, that it's not just the shows anymore. It's the shows and the podcasts and the interviews and the Tom's commercials. I'm Brittany Cartwright for Tom's. Tom. I'm watching too much The McBee Dynasty right now. So my Brittany this week, I've noticed, has now started to get even like kind of a Missouri twang. Like, I'm Brittany Cartwright and I'm on the McBee farm in Gallatin, Missouri. Toms. Yeah. How are you guys? Are you good? What did you think of the third part of the reunion? Like right off the bat, it's so interesting. I was reading people's responses to it, and I felt that it was darker in some ways. It's just that Jax was a non-factor. And I think that's so almost fitting in a sense of somebody that is, even as a villain, a giant in reality television in terms of villainy. I don't mean like, oh, he's the one that we look up to. No, in terms of villain, he is just the top-notch villain. I mean, just really one of the biggest villains that you can have. And this has him going out, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Jax is pretty ineffective and not really used a lot in this final episode. And I find that very interesting and very fitting, and also just a real good example that, yeah, they don't need Jax on this third season. We got oodles of toxicity to focus on. I mean, truly, oodles. Yeah, I'm just going to say oodles. Say that today 10 times. Oodles. So, yeah. I've said this ad nauseum, but I do know they shoot in a couple of weeks. And I think I said this on Wednesday's episode. It's really fascinating to think about is that usually the reunion will air and they'll still have a couple months before they start filming. And this is very different. Like they're turning around and filming. And so I would imagine the cast is pretty pissed at each other because they have consistently been dealing with public discourse right up into the point that they're filming again. And what we do know about casts, and I'm not just exclusively saying the Valley, but casts of reality television in general, is that most of them do live in the comments. Most of them do hear the podcast. Most of them do read the Reddit threads. Most of them do all of this stuff. So even if they weren't angry in the moment, they get angrier once they read the public perception or the public points out something about a cast member that they didn't even think about. You see it. I mean, Tamara's a perfect example on Real Housewives of Orange County where I think she pays very close attention to what people are saying and she kind of folds that into her quote unquote performance on Orange County. And I would beg of the cast of The Valley to not do that. I feel like the audience is too smart. And, this is not the biggest audience of all time for Bravo, but the audience that is there is a very passionate fan base that for the most part do not like the show. They love talking about the show. They love aspects of the show, but overall they don't like the show. That's why it's so interesting. And I was thinking about this all morning because, the conventional wisdom would say that they are living the dream, right? And I don't mean the dream of being on The Valley, but the dream of being on television. Most people, even still to this day, even influencers who have much larger followings than anybody on The Valley, they still want to be on television at some point. Television is still kind of this magical destination point to get to. Like, wow, I can say I'm on TV. That's still an actual thing. Think about it. Even the podcast, even Nick Viall, Alex Cooper, they want television shows. And the cast of The Valley have that. And third season, remember, is when you start really making some coin. You start really making some real money. You get brand deals. You get a lot of different... I mean, listen, everybody already has a podcast over there, but they start getting all of these accoutrements that you usually get when you have a television show that is talked about this much. And we have given this to them in a sense. We have made it so there was a second season of The Valley. There was a third season of The Valley. I mean, if we're being honest, Scandal created The Valley to begin with because this idea for The Valley had been kicking around for years and years and years. And please see my interview with Alex Baskin that we did right before The Valley season 2 aired. A lot of people have very strong and, sometimes very negative opinions about Alex Baskin and his productions. But I found that a fascinating interview just from how do you piece this stuff together? And his point in that interview, you guys, was this was their reality. Are we supposed to not film their reality? And you probably have strong feelings on what I just said. But I think the meta of this all, it's very meta, very Inception, is that, yeah, it is their reality, but their reality is created by reality show reality to begin with. Their reality is created on the heels of Scandal, on the heels of Vanderpump Rules. So they're already talking about this distorted reality. Do I think Janet stalked Scheana and Doute to get on reality television? No. God, no. No. But I do think, like a lot of people think, that it's really fun to be around and to be friendly with people on reality television. I mean, we talked about this yesterday when I went off on a tangent about the movie Almost Famous, the Cameron Crowe film. And we were talking about that scene with Philip Seymour Hoffman. Is that, they want you to hang out with these people. That's their currency. It's like alcohol. They're just feeding you alcohol because, they assume that you want to be cool. Everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants to be accepted. Everybody wants to be in the in crowd. But my point is, if this is the in crowd, nobody should want to be in it. And in some way, that makes them unique because it's an anti-hero cool crowd. I'm going full QAnon right now. I'm going down rabbit holes, you guys. I'm usually not very cocky, but I really think this is going to win me like a Pulitzer Prize. Can you even get a Pulitzer Prize for podcasting? Who knows? With the current administration, that actually might be possible. But I think it's the first show, as I've said from the beginning, that there is nobody that is aspirational. I mean, I could say sometimes I like the way Nia operates or Nia's viewpoint, but, you could look at each one and I could do a quick Google search and find something that enrages me about each one of these people. So Alex Baskin saying that, this is their reality, but their reality is created off the backs of reality television shows. So it's this skewered reality that a lot of us actually don't have in our life. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that this show did cover real issues. A woman having trouble with fertility issues. A woman talking about her body image after having babies and wanting another baby and wondering what that was going to do to her body image. We had Doute finally finding love, which there was a really nice moment with Andy saying, hey, it was really nice. It's been really nice to watch your arc on Vanderpump Rules to hear. And yeah, I mean, if we were to take something good out of the Valley, I think that is one thing. And I'm not saying that Doute still doesn't have some Doute in her, like classic Doute. But it is nice because you have Doute and you have Jax. And we've seen one person attempt to change. And I don't even know if it's an attempt, but actually managed to change and build out what seems like a beautiful life with Luke and her new child. And then you have Jax, who had what he always told us was a beautiful marriage and child. And we see where that led this season. So you had one story of triumph and one story so deep into the gutter that you don't know if they will ever be able to pull out of that. And now TV is not a factor except for the other person that was in that relationship. The mother of their child is still on TV. So you want to talk about a fucked up reality that is not aspirational, and nor will we ever be in that position. That's it right there. And the more I think about it, the more that I'm like, there's no way that we will not keep referring to Jax in the third season. But also, we gave them this platform, this fame. And this is what you do with it? It just shows you that the grass is not always greener. Why do you want to be on television? It shows us as we get older, it's like, and just like that, which I have a friend, Kaya Bravo, We're Black, great podcast, great people. But she texted me today and said she watched the series finale of And Just Like That. And she was like, why are we even pretending this is like so bad it's good? It's just fucking bad. So I can't wait to watch the series finale, which she didn't really say great things about. But in my thing, I keep saying, and just like that, it kind of like, if we're to go with that thesis of the show, it just means we get older, we get richer, but we become out of touch assholes. And that's what sometimes it seems like we're dealing with here. Now, I don't mean asshole. I mean that in a comedic way to a sense, but there is this out of touch where they are not. And at the same time, we're not dealing with Kardashians here. We're not dealing with this uber level of celebrity. We're dealing with a reality show level of fame. And they've already had a lot of intense things happen in 2 seasons. Imagine if The Valley was on for 10 seasons, and then on that 10th season, they have a Scandal level event. They're going to be near 60 by the time that happens. No, that's not true. They'll be like in their 50s. I don't know. I've just thought so much about this because that's my job. That's my this is my non-aspirational job, you guys. But I just kept thinking, man, like, if you got this opportunity, you would think that your life would be made. Like, wait, you're telling me I'm on TV? You're telling me I'm on a 3rd season of a reality television show that people actually watch, that people talk about passionately, that some douchebag has a podcast about, that he does 3-hour episodes on? You would think, my God, I've made it. And then God would be like, whoa, hold up. It's a show called The Valley. And you'd be like, oh, no, not The Valley. Oh, fuck. And it just goes to show you, even when you have these things going for you, there is still such toxicity, such negativity. And the other thing that I want to remind people, like I do every week, is that I think it gives a false definition of a friendship group. This is not a friendship group. I mean, some of them are friendship. Like some of them, there's groups within this Valley cast that are actual friends, but there is no way that I believe that Janet actually wants to be friends with Danny and Nia. There's no way. You don't handle any sort of friendship, even if you are worried about somebody or think somebody has gone so above board in terms of their behavior. in terms of that, yeah, like even her comments to Jason that were under her breath about, oh, of course the ass grabber is going to speak. It's okay to not like somebody. It's okay to not want anything to do with them. But then why are we pretending that you do? We can't pretend on these shows. It's like me talking about Zach with all his comments under his breath. Yeah, those are funny comments, man. But say it with your whole chest. Say it so it starts the conversation, not so it's a little snarky quirk that we get to hear, but the people that are there, your actual friend group, do not get to hear at all. Folks, we are here once again to talk about our good friends over at Quince. I have so many amazing pieces of clothing from Quince now. In fact, I just got this gray zip-up hoodie, and I got it in a size large. I was wearing an extra large. Health journey is going great, but that's not what this commercial is about. And also, I have Quince sheets. I am sleeping on Quince sheets every night, and it is amazing. So why drop a fortune on basics when you don't have to? Quince has the good stuff, high-quality fabrics, classic fits, and lightweight layers for warm weather, all at prices that make sense. Everything I've ordered from Quince has been nothing but solid. Quince has closet staples you'll want to reach for over and over, like cozy cashmere and cotton sweaters from just $50, breathable flow knit polos, and comfortable lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed up dinners. The best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. How do they do this? By working directly with top artisans and cutting out that middleman. Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. So, keep it classic and cool with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/sobad for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/sobad. Go to their website right now, folks. You're going to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/sobad. You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bills. That's why I made the switch to Mint Mobile. I use this. You should too. And for a limited time, Mint Mobile is offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for $15 a month on the nation's largest 5G network. I mean, the sound is pristine. So say goodbye to your overpaid wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages because Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. Like I said, all plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text delivered on that largest 5G network. So, this year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/sobad. That's mintmobile, mintmobile.com/sobad. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Join the fun on DraftKings Casino, ranked the #1 online casino experience. They've got everything you've been searching for. Thousands of exciting games, huge jackpots, exclusive offers, and more. New players get a 10-day welcome offer. 500 spins on Huff N' More Pup when you play just $5 to start. So, download the DraftKings Casino app, sign up with code SOBAD, and spin your favorite slots. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days. Valid for feature game only and expire each day after 24 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends 8/24/25 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. #1 based on Eilers and Krajcik 2H24 product analysis. But that's it, is that I think you just walk away going, well, this isn't actually a real friend group. These are coworkers, and these are coworkers that don't understand. You have 70% of this cast that understand the nature of what reality television is. And then you have 30% of the cast that seem like they don't fucking know where they're at. Danny does not seem to know what reality television is, even though he was a professed really good friend with Jax Taylor for many, many years. He must have been a good friend of Jax Taylor that never watched Vanderpump Rules, because he legitimately seems confused about what is happening. And yeah, so those are my opening statements. How are you guys? You good? You still good? You hanging in with me? Okay, so how this is going to work is I'm going to lose my mind, and hopefully you'll listen or you'll be watching this. Thank you for being here, as always. Thank you for listening to all the shows this week. I know one in particular was challenging for you, so thank you to the people that actually did listen to that. And we're going to try to have as much fun as possible. This first part, we're going to talk about the Valley news stories surrounding the Valley. And we'll do that right after this commercial break, and then we'll go into the recap. So buckle in, get a drink, get a sody pop, get some candy, get whatever you're eating, or maybe you're out on a jog. Maybe you're driving with your kids, and I do use some colorful language. So if you are driving with your kids, I do want you to pull that car over, and I want you to ask those kids to step outside the vehicle and then just say you're going to be a couple hours, right? You know, you need to have the vehicle parked near the kids so you can keep an eye on them, but we'll be here for a minute, okay? And then on Friday, we'll be doing an OC recap. And and we got some great guests next week, you guys. So make sure, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. That really does make a difference. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rate it 5 stars on both platforms. We have, I'm so flippin' lucky. We have this huge audience over on Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, it's a fraction of what we get on Apple Podcasts. And I don't know if it's just because maybe I'm a fuddy-duddy, and fuddy-duddies are more into Apple Podcasts. And what I have to say to that is, like, yeah, long live Apple Podcasts then. But Spotify, it's so weird. I always, I'm like, is somebody like fucking with the feed over on Spotify? Because it is weirdly a fraction of what, anyways, that's not your, now I'm just talking personal shit. Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Okay, let's shot, tom. I'm Brittany, shot. I'm gonna miss so much of this. Oh my God. I hope Brittany's storyline next season is just, I'm doing a shot bar, shot. I'm a tom. I cannot wait to watch her on Special Forces on Fox in September. We have a story about that because she was on Tom Schwartz's podcast this week. I mean, the podcast Vanderpump Valley Pipeline is very strong. So we got a bunch of news stories, but let's start off. It's always interesting when a show or any Bravo show kind of breaks through into mainstream media criticism, and Time Magazine, which is a very well-respected magazine and has been around forever. Their TV critic, Judy Berman, has an article out today in Time. You can find it at time.com, and it says, the headline is, Jax Taylor's departure isn't enough. It's time to put the Valley out of its misery. Whoa, that's gotta hurt. Holy shit. But I can see Judy listens to the pod. Yeah, no, I was like, haven't we said that from day one? Haven't we said this all along? That it's like, it's just a flaming pile of like shit. Like, and I say that in a very loving way, if you can. But let's go through some of the highlights of this article. She starts by saying television has gotten pretty dark. Tech dystopias from Black Mirror to Severance. Did you ever think Severance and the Valley would be in the same article? She says there are water cooler shows. The True Crime Factory pumps out more real-life nightmares every day. Millions of viewers are binging on post-apocalyptic misery, whether it takes the shape of The Last of Us, Fungal Wasteland, or Silo's crumbling underground city. Silo's a show on Apple TV+, you guys. Or the sterile billionaire stronghold in paradise. That's a show on Hulu. They're filming the second season right now. Even realistic dramas increasingly rely on a murder mystery element to build suspense. And yet somehow the most depressing show on TV, with the exception of any news broadcast, that's a fair point, is a reality soap about bougie couples in the suburbs of Los Angeles. I am, of course, talking about Bravo's The Valley. Holy shit! Talking about burning it all down, but it also gave me an idea. Murder mystery, you say? What if season 3? I've always said this in past episodes of like, there needs to be some housewife show that we're eventually headed towards a murder mystery, like a game of Clue. You know how they always do that thing, like the first episode of the season is that they'll flash forward at the beginning and we'll see something that happens 3 months later. And then we'll flash back to like a peaceful, quiet day in like Salt Lake City. They need to do that with The Valley. There needs to be a murder mystery of like, and this is so dark of like, I don't want to think about, anyways, it's dark, but yeah, a murder mystery, it would fit in well with The Valley. So she writes, like the early seasons of Vanderpump, as well as the network stalwart Real Housewives and Below Deck franchises, The Valley was introduced as light entertainment. I do disagree with certain aspects of this article. I never thought this was introduced as light entertainment because I thought you saw the crumbling facade through everything. I mean, think back to the first episode of The Valley season 1. Brittany had like the head wrap around because I think they got picked up and had to shoot earlier before like plastic surgery could settle in. And she had gotten I think something done like Kybella or something done with her neck. And she, that was wrapped around. We saw Jax already kind of throwing Kristen under the bus. I mean, I think from the jump, this was already dark. And it's like when you're born out of Scandival, that's a child of darkness. But she says, in this case, the comedy inherent in the premise was that of hard-partying, adulthood-resisting, millennial Angelinos adjusting to marriage, mortgage payments, and parenthood. Mortgage payments? Jax doesn't even pay his mortgage. There's no adjusting. He just doesn't pay it. The original opening credits placed the couples in kitschy front yard tableau, hoisting trash bags or raking leaves. I truly believe those trash bags, there's dead bodies in those trash bags. Instead, viewers have spent 2 seasons looking on in a horror as many of the cast members have torn their own lives and families apart, with public scrutiny only adding heat to the crucible. Ooh, when a writer writes crucible in an article, that's chef's kiss. Far from entertaining, the show has become genuinely painful to watch. Now, as its second season ends in a trilogy of miserable reunion episodes, I wish Bravo would just pull the plug. I wish Bravo would just pull the plug. The series premiere, which aired last March, suggests what producers initially envisioned as the tone of the show. Like The Housewives, this docusoap would center on big personalities and minor melodramas of a so-called friend group, a term of art for reality TV casts that may not actually socialize off camera. Jax Taylor, a supposedly reformed womanizer, and his wife Brittany, a Kentucky-bred sweetheart whose years of saintly self-sacrifice had apparently redeemed him, were positioned as what Jax might call the number one couple in the group. What's so great is that log line that she just said. That's what they wanted us to believe. And I don't mean production, but I mean Jax and Brittany themselves, and especially Jax, is that in their heads, they were like, we are the couple who done good. We are the number one couple in the group, which also gives a little more weight to the theory that they didn't really like the great edit that Danny and Nia, they thought, got in season 1. Also back on Bravo, years after getting fired from Vanderpump for racist mischief, was perennial pot stirrer Kristen Doute now trying to get pregnant with her boyfriend, soft-spoken LA outsider Luke Broderick. I would have said soft-spoken short lover, because he loves wearing shorts in his talking head. A selection of their associates filled out the cast. Jesse, Lally, and Michelle were married real estate agents with a toddler. Actor Nia Booko and former Miss USA Nia Booko had their hands full with 3 kids under 2 years old. I also want to point out, and thank you, I always just kind of, you know the drill by now, I just kind of go in different directions, but the Miss USA thing, remember Nia, I believe, coached Raquel, the artist formerly known as Rachel Leviss, when she was going after beauty queen glory. And so if the Valley does continue past season 3, I do believe there is a world where you could get Raquel on the Valley in some sort of weird way through Nia. But they talk about having 3 kids. Janet Caperna was extremely intense and extremely pregnant. Her husband, Jason, kept relatively quiet. Not this season. Finally, we met Jasmine and Zack, who were both queer, but whose personal lives didn't seem to be a part of the friend group saga. While Jack Shirley, at the urging of producers, tried to provoke Kristen by questioning her fertility choices, nothing major happened in the premiere. The couples bickered and complained about each other, as couples often do. The episode climaxed with Jax pantsing Danny, who turned out not to be wearing underwear. He must have been in the pantry drinking. He's like, I forgot my undies. 3 under 2. At a country fair themed birthday party for Janet, earlier Zack had made an observation whose accuracy was never in doubt, but that would only seem more prescient as the show progressed. All these people move to the Valley, get a house, pop out a couple kids, and then they think they're so grown up. But these people don't grow up. As tends to be the case in shows like this, tensions between and among couples escalated as the season wore on. But unless you'd been following the ever-expanding constellation of tabloids, podcasts, and social media gossip accounts that track reality stars' every move, it was still jarring to see a 6-month time jump in the finale that checked in with 2 couples, Jesse and Michelle, as well as Jax and Brittany, who'd separated since production wrapped. Alarming reports trickled out during the Valley's hiatus, mostly about Jax, his cocaine addiction, his stint in rehab, during which Brittany filed for divorce, his diagnosis. After years of Bravo fans' armchair psychoanalysis of bipolar and PTSD, a second rehab stay. Much of the above was chronicled in the year's second season, which opened with Brittany's account and Jax's confirmation of his violent table-smashing response to his discovery of some racy text messages she'd exchanged with a friend of his, even though they were separated and free to date at the time. Viewers learned that he'd also been surveilling his estranged wife via home security cameras and watched as he bombarded her with rage texts from rehab. Rage Text from Rehab is a great title for a book. Repeating a pattern of behavior familiar to any Vanderpump completist, he sometimes lied, sometimes expressed remorse and promised to change, and sometimes played the victims. Insisting it was Brittany who had destroyed their family by separating him from his son, every episode seemed to bring a new, terrible revelation. Jax wasn't the only man in the group whose actions went beyond the pale, even for reality TV. Though he and Michelle both had new partners and were co-parenting, not peacefully, but at least more functionally than the Cartwright Taylors, Jesse became obsessed with the idea that she'd been cheating on him with her current boyfriend before their separation. He called her a hooker to her face. God, it is so funny how we get so desensitized to these things. Because, I talk about this every week, and still, when you read it in print, you're like, yeah, man, he called her a fucking hooker. They have a daughter together, and this is national TV. And spread an unsubstantiated rumor that a billionaire was paying her for sex. The exes went back and forth over whether Michelle could take their daughter on a trip to visit her dying mother. Less predictably, it came out that nice guy Danny had drunkenly groped Jasmine and her fiancée Melissa at a Halloween party between seasons. Although he apologized and they forgave him, the incident fueled a season-long arc that divided the cast over whether they believed he had a drinking problem that Nia was helping him hide. You know what I find interesting is that they are like kind of listing these like the big events. And to the third part of the reunion is the Janet and the Jason taking off his ring. That wasn't an event. I think a lot of us wrote that off really quickly, and Andy makes that point of like, yeah, but then you went and got a ring, even though, and other people were like, you're the only people bringing this up at this point. That wasn't a major storyline. I was pretty confident that that wasn't true from the jump. What I was actually more confused about, and what we didn't even get the fucking follow-up questions from Andy with Jasmine, was like, okay, so take us through how you heard this rumor in the first place. Because we heard about Jason's friends that were also complaining about Jason no longer hanging out with him, and I think that actually was revealed in the after shows on Peacock, which we covered on the Patreon. I wanted to know more about that. I wanted to know how this rumor got out there in the first place. But did I believe the rumor? No, I do not believe the rumor. Not at all. Whether or not you're inclined to invoke loaded and in some cases legal terms domestic violence, emotional abuse, sexual assault, stalking, slander, slut-shaming, etc., to describe these behaviors, only a sadist could enjoy watching real people inflict and endure such a litany of tortures. How dare you call me a sadist? Time magazine TV critic. Yeah, I probably I actually probably am a sadist. That's but when you see it in print, Let's say it one more time. Domestic violence, emotional abuse, sexual assault, stalking, slander, slut-shaming. And that was just in the 3rd episode. No, I mean, that was what we saw all season long. So yes, when I say, and when we say that this feels very dark and bad, we're not. This is how we should feel. But as we always talk about as well, as long as we're feeling something, right? And I don't mean I'm saying that, but I mean, I feel like production companies and Bravo at large is any press is good press. Even if you hate us, you love us. I mean, think about Scheana. Scheana gets so much hate day in, day out. Like, I was on TikTok and everybody does a TikTok trend of like listening to Sheena's book and like kind of rolling their eyes or do it like, like a whole thing. And, listen, she is being hated all the way to the bank. So I sometimes feel and I sometimes fear that it doesn't matter anymore. They're not trying to make us happy. They're trying to make us angry. And then at the same time, this is truly what is going on in their lives, which is even scarier to think about. The article continues, it's particularly disturbing to see them normalized within the conventions of a TV format designed to escalate petty slights and rivalries into social wars so stupid they're funny. Real suffering is kryptonite to rich people problems entertainment, which is probably also why the Real Housewives of New York City imploded this past January in a season finale where one cast member accused another of insensitivity towards the former's traumatic experience as a, trigger warning, rape survivor. I'm talking about the Bryn Whitfield and Uba situation, right? This is not the stuff of juicy gossip to be gleefully dissected with Andy Cohen on Watch What Happens Live, yet there Cohen and the Valley cast members often were on his post-game talk show, polling viewers about whose side they were on the Jax and Brittany breakup or how they felt about Janet labeling Danny's blackout transgression of sexual assault. It's not funny, but it is funny because you're like, oh yeah, we and listen, I sit here and joke about it as well, but sometimes you have to joke about these things to kind of get through it, right? To try to understand it. As the Roni meltdown illustrates, The Valley isn't the first Bravo docusoap to get darker than the genre is equipped to go. But the sheer number of horrible storylines and moments in its 2nd season suggests something uniquely rotten at the show's core. Jax Taylor. No, I think it's the focus on the specific varieties of dysfunction that can arise within heterosexual marriages and families. While husbands and kids are part of all the housewives' menageries, they're never the main characters. Tell that to Real Housewives of New Jersey. Frequent girls' trips, among other contrivances, keep the focus on female friendship, which for all its discontents does not usually conceal sexual violence, abuse, or infidelity. Cheating has been a constant source of drama in Vanderpump. Before Scandal, Jax was the resident recidivist cad, and other co-ed friend group shows like Summer House. The thing is, those casts tend to be younger, unmarried, and childless. The stakes of their trucking antics are lower. Exactly! Oh my God, how many times have we said that this season? Is the fact that once you remember that they have kids, you're like, oh, fuck, man. They're not playing with the house's money. Like, there's like real stakes here. Drunken antics are lower, less likely to land them in court or rehab, and their kids, who in the case of the Valley families, are too little to be consensual participants in the Bravo universe in therapy. I will say one thing that I was like, well, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City this past season had the Mary storyline with her son being an addict. So it does happen occasionally on other shows and Housewives. She continues, which is why, as unlikely as its cancellation seems, at this point, I'm convinced there's no fixing the Valley. Sure, Taylor's recently announced departure from the show is a relief, especially for Cartwright and their son, whether or not he's capable of staying out of the spotlight or maintaining what he enumerated in a statement as my sobriety, my mental health, and co-parenting relationship. No one's livelihood should be contingent on interacting on camera or off with a person who caused them pain. Exactly. This is why I'm like, I don't want to worry about their sources of income, because their sources of income directly say you have to cause pain to these people, or you are the causer, the abuser, or you are being abused. It's a weird thing. And then realizing they are getting paid a pretty penny for this, which almost encourages that behavior, right? No one's livelihood should be contingent on interacting on camera or off with a person who caused them pain, yet Brittany isn't the only cast member in that boat. Even if she were, what would be left to salvage of a show whose central clique has no real chemistry, whose cast has no charming breakout star? Much has been made of Vanderpump villain Doute's emergence as the most likable of the bunch, whose episodes are devoid of the silly hangout shenanigans found in the best seasons of Vanderpump and Housewives. The slapstick comedy of Jax pantsing Danny was immediately followed by Nia bursting into tears over her husband's humiliation. The producers of The Valley were right to presume that chaos would ensue when people who'd been partying for 20 years tried to settle into a more tranquil suburban existences. They just didn't anticipate what a tragic form that chaos would take. So once again, the author of this is Judy Berman from Time. I thought this was very well written. My main thing that I take away from all of that is bring on season 3. Let's go, baby. No, she nailed so much of that. I mean, she really, really put into words a lot of the things that I think we all have been feeling. And at the same time, we're like voyeurs at a car crash. We're the people that are slowing down of like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. And then your car just slows down and you just start looking over and over and over. And then you can't stop looking over. And then the guy behind you honks because you've just fully stopped. We can't look away from a car crash. And also, as I've been saying with reality television especially, it is a product of the times that we are in. We are in very intense times. And so that is, it's wild. It's wild, weird stuff. It's wild, yes.
Shot. I need a shot. I need shot. I want to do a shot.
Okay, moving on. Reminder, there's a timestamp if you want to skip right to the actual recap of the episode. Totally understand. I got a couple more things we're going to cover before that. And also, are you even listening to this right now? Or you're probably watching or listening to the New Heights podcast that Travis Kelce is doing with his girlfriend, Taylor Swift, which drops in like a couple of hours. I'm actually excited to watch that. I just want to see how they are around each other when they're verbally talking. Like I see pictures of them all the time, but I want to see how they actually act together. Now, some of this information is pulled from one of my favorite accounts, Vanderpod Recaps. So if you don't, go give them a follow. But also, I think they do have a podcast called Recap Rodeo. So go check out their podcast. Support. We always got to support our podcast compatriots that are doing not the Lord's work, because I believe truly the Lord doesn't want us to do any of this work, but just the good work. This is from an article from Decider.com. And it was, the headline says, Tom Sandoval reveals whether he'd ever join the Valley, reacts to Brittany Cartwright competing in Special Forces Season 4. Because remember, Sandoval was in Season 2 and right on the heels of Scandoval, and JoJo Siwa had to carry Tom like, what's up? It's me, JoJo. I'll carry you, Tom. What's up, dude? Carrying you, JoJo. Let's do this, dude. Sandoval says in regards to Brittany joining Special Forces, I didn't speak to her about it, dude, but I'm excited for her. I wish her the best of luck. I'm sure she probably already filmed it or whatever, but I hope she did really well, dude. It's really just about testing yourself. And then this is the kicker. He actually talks about Jax. He says, I actually just saw Jax yesterday, dude. We went and saw a movie together. Guys, guess what movie Jax and Sandoval saw together? If you guessed Freakier Friday, you would be correct. Imagine going to your AMC, sitting through 30 minutes of trailers and commercials, and you hear like, oh, dude, oh, this is crazy, dude. Oh, I'm so angry at this movie. Fucking Jax and Sandoval went and saw Freakier Friday together. I wish this sounds like something I would just make up because I found it was funny. No, this is true. Jax and Sandoval went and saw Freakier Friday. I would ask AMC to take me off the A-list if I was there at that time. But Sandoval says, we're doing good, dude. I'm really just trying to support him and be a good friend to him as he tries and he gets the help that he needs, dude. I just wish him all the best. Yeah, I mean, great. That is good. He should have support around him, and hopefully he is doing the hard work. And then they said, as for whether Sandoval would ever appear on the Valley in Taylor's absence, he said, Well, it's always nice to be asked to do something like that, but for right now, I'm really just focusing on other aspects of my life, dude. But you never know. You never know. And that almost sounded like a threat. You never, I'm shocked there wasn't ellipses there, like ... You never know, dude. You never know. Ha ha ha. I still am hearing he is not in season 3, but I highly suspect if this goes 4 seasons, he will be in the 4th season. So that was a great article with our friends over at Decider. And then what else we got? Oh, did you watch What Happens Live? Last night, they had Seth Rogen on promoting the 2nd season of Platonic on Apple TV Plus. And Seth Rogen, dude, that's another dream guest, man. I want to do well enough to get somebody like Seth Rogen on the podcast. I mean, I don't want to smoke weed with him. I don't want to make pottery with him. I just want to talk Bravo because this man knows his shit, dude. This man is a Bravo-holic. And he was talking about Jax Taylor and so many things, but I just thought this was like, he nailed it. I mean, once again, it's so comforting. All of these things that we talk about as a group, everybody feels pretty similarly. So Seth Rogen was talking and Andy Cohen was talking about, like, give us your thoughts on the Valley. And he was like, ha, 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 ha. He said, Jax is so toxic at this point. He's such a narcissist that craves attention. So it seems wrong to give it to him by allowing him to be on television. Now, remember, a bunch of like 10 years ago, Seth Rogen was in a film called The Night Before, if you remember that film. And they did a Vanderpump Rules, like Seth Rogen and his cast were working at SUR. It's really funny. You can see it on my Instagram, but you have to go back like 2 years ago. I posted like the full clip. I think it's on my TikTok as well. But just type in The Night Before Vanderpump Rules promotion. You can find it on YouTube as well. And it's really funny, actually. Seth Rogen is working with Jax, and there's like a picture of Seth and Jax in the opening credits, the old Vanderpump Rules opening credits. And he said about that experience, he said, Jax was an amazing actor. He was truly incredible. Now, years later, I'm like, oh, it's because he's a compulsive, lying sociopath. But it translated into an incredible ability to improvise on the spot. Even at the time, I was like, I think this guy's on cocaine. Time will tell that he was. So he said, even at the time, he was like, oh, this guy's on cocaine. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah, so I thought that was great. Actually, I'll play a clip from Watch What Happens Live because he had such strong opinions and things that we've been saying all along. So check this out.
They said, I'm very defensive of Dax. Right. It's for Dax. Yeah. So I'm in the sand when it comes to Daddy, yet he's so outwardly defensive of Dax. Who is all you might.
Very good point. You are not upset that Jax is not returning to the show.
No, Jax is so toxic at this point. It seems, and he's such a narcissist that craves attention. It seems wrong to give it to him by allowing him to do television.
Your thoughts on online sleuths who discovered that Jax was wearing lips at the seated reunion?
Lips is the greatest thing ever. It only makes him. I never even thought about him being short until I read that he was wearing lips at the seated reunion. My favorite Jax thing is the Frank Brennan thing. Oh, man. All right.
So that was Seth Rogen. So this guy knows his Bravo, which I so love. What else do we got here? Okay, this is great. Like I said, Brittany Cartwright, Jasmine, and Michelle, you're a disaster, Schwartz. You're a disaster. We're on Schwartz's podcast, Detox Retox, and I actually did a story on Monday with Sophie where I was like, Brittany had everybody over for a pool day at their house, and it turns out they were recording Schwartz's podcast. And this was about, on a scale from 1 to 10, everybody wants to know, how's your sparkle?
how's your sparkle?
And Brittany's like, my sparkle's coming back.
Shots, my sparkle. I'm taking Tom's, and Tom's else my sparkle.
Schwartz is like, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you've got an aura right now. Oh my God. How mad was Jax, I wonder, that he was over swimming in that pool? Brittany goes, my sparkle's like an 8 out of 10. My sparkle's like an 8 out of 10. And Schwartz is like, that's what I'm talking about. You heard it here first. This is an exclusive. Yeah, I'm in a much better place than I was last summer. So yeah. You seem happy, Brittany. Yeah. It's time for new beginnings. Exactly. And then she talked about special forces, and Schwartz said, had no idea that she was going to be on it. And Schwartz says, when I opened Instagram today, there was one of your castmates, Brianna Chicken Fry. She's a big podcaster and she does everything, but she did a Q&A. She did a little teaser about her experience. And the first question was, how was your experience? And she's like, I cried every day. And Brittany's like, oh, it was the hardest thing I ever done in my life. I've been very open about hots, Height, like tall things, and how that terrifies me. So doing little things, different things like that, I'm proud of myself. And then they talked, Schwartz is like, when I talked to Sandoval about it, he said it broke him. It really did. Tom actually did, because I watched it before I went on the show and I was like, wow, Tom actually was impressive on that show, except for the time that he had to like carry, JoJo had to carry Tom. JoJo Siwa carry Tom. That is hilarious.
Shots, Tom's.
And, he asked her to rate her performance on the show, and she goes, I tried. And then they talked about the food at Special Forces and like, how was the food? Because Sandoval said it wasn't good. And Brittany's like, what? I mean, I had a chicken Caesar wrap. It wasn't that bad. There were different things that were okay. I don't know where we were. It wasn't food that I was used to, I guess. Sure, they had no shots. I had a chicken Caesar wrap. Was she only there for one day? Or is that what she means she had every day? Or does Brittany get kicked out first? Also, it would be funny if Tom, when Sandoval was on, they just didn't give him food. They're like, no, you're not eating anything. And when you do, it's going to be slop. So that was from Vanderpod Recaps, but that was recapping Detox Retox, Schwartz's podcast. So go check that out if you want to hear the full interview. But truly, I am just... I guess Jax is out there seeing Freakier Friday and Brittany's having pool parties with Schwartz. I think those are just two of the signs of the apocalypse. We're cooked, you guys. We are cooked. Okay, we are about to start. And when we start the recap, there's always something that we've done as a family of hooligans that find our pleasure in dissecting these shows that really gets us into the mood. And I want everybody just to realize this is like a special moment for us. It's a time to dance like no one's watching or dance like everyone's watching. So I want everybody to light some candles, and I want to do something different this time. I want everybody to take all of their clothes off. What if you just start hearing sax music in the background? Okay, this is the last time. There is a little song called Raise Your Glass. Raise Your Gas. This is a song called Tums, I Need Tums, Raise Your Gas. Raise Your Glass by Dina Deadly. I will say, I think the Valley theme song is growing on more people, but it just doesn't make any sense because it's all right. Everything is all when nothing is. We are so far from all right. In fact, they need to re-record that song and it'd be like, everything is not great. Everything is actually pretty bad. It's psychotic. But I have said Raise Your Glass is the unofficial theme song to the Valley. So, for the last time this season, before we put this to bed, and this is the part that makes me the saddest, let's do this. Let's do this for the kids. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, Hercules, Hercules. Pelvic thrust. Burn it up like a candle. Burn it up like a candle. All you need is love in the boombox to make this world rock and bump to the roof. Boom. This is when you know she's serious. Is to move to the body. Big a hole in the motherfucking sky. Breakdance. Robot. It's good to move your body. I can't believe there's going to be a third season of The Valley. I can't believe that. Oh. Is everybody fully naked? Let's do it. Woo! Last one. We did. Tears of joy. Woo! We're in a packed nightclub. Rain is falling from the ceiling, and then you realize it's blood, like the opening scene of that movie Blade with Wesley Snipes. Raise your Stanleys high. Ooh. Man, I almost teared up. Were you guys crying? I was just such an emotional last time that we were going to do this. Oh, I hope that got us to where we needed to get to, because now we are diving straight into hell. 2 episodes of this reunion have already happened. And where we left off last week was a fight brewing between Danny, Dark Side Pantry, Darko Danny, Pantry Drinker Danny, and Jason Caperna, Janet's wife. So let's get started. Oh my God, you guys, I just had a really dark thought. I just did that Sandoval Jax story. What if they pitch a show of like, the canceled men of Bravo, dude? It's like the event. It's like the Avengers that nobody wants on the Avengers team, like Hawkeye. Hawkeye's superpower is that he's really good with a bow and arrow. Like, that's not even a good super. This is not the podcast for that. Anywho, we start off with Andy Cohen and a voiceover going, Part 3 of the Valley reunion starts now. I love that maybe even the Valley reunion was so dark for Andy Cohen that the Love Island USA reunion, which he just filmed last night, was probably like a vacation. He was like, Hutta is nothing compared to the darkness of the Valley. So we start off where we left off, and Jasmine is talking, and she's like, on the after show, Danny, you said something like, oh, I can't believe it was brought up again, like I was bringing like something up. And Danny's like, by Janet, I meant. And Jason like fully hand motions, like it's Shannon Bedore. He's like, you are a clown, dude. You're a total clown. And Janet's like trying to like put her hand on him, like, babe, you're gesticulating very loudly. And Jason says something like, you better never, and he's pointing it to Janet. So I was like, is he about to say, you better never grab Janet's sweet cheeks? You better never, like, what was he about to say? And Danny's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then Jason does more gesticulating. He's like, blame everybody. He has finger guns. He's like, blame everybody. And Janet goes, you know what? I'm actually glad I talked about it a lot and Jason goes, no, just blame her, actually. Just blame Janet. And Janet goes, because it's happened multiple times since. And I'm like, zoinks. And Andy's like, whoa. So you're saying that he has touched other women's butts? And Janet says, he's been inappropriate and made women uncomfortable multiple times since. And Jason's shaking his head in agreement. And then Janet says, as recently as the Super Bowl. Oh, shit, we've brought the NFL into it now. The Super Bowl, I believe, was was that in February? And they shot this in, what did they shoot this? I don't know. Anyways, they shot, so that would just be probably a couple months ago, right? And then Nia and Danny are both activated. They're like, that's a lie. And Nia's like, that's a lie. That's a lie. And Nia goes, and you're really good at lying. Remember, I want to remind everybody, Nia is like a 4th degree black belt. I think even if to get to that degree of black belt, you have to kill a man with your hands. So, I mean, like, yeah. But they're just like, that's a lie. That's a lie. And Nia's like, you're making it sound like he is going out and grabbing women when he drinks, and that is wrong. And Janet goes, until the behavior stops, I don't feel bad talking about this stuff. And there's a couple people on the stage that know about it. And Danny's like, what? What? And Nia's like, what? And then we get a reaction shot out of Brittany, who she's like, I need my Toms. Oh, shit. Shot. I need your shot. But by the way, so I'm like, okay, now we're going to get a lot of information. People are going to be coming out of the woodwork saying all this information about Danny, right? Because Janet, like, unleashed the dam. The dam has been broken. So we're going to get everybody saying what they know about Danny right now, right? And Janet goes, Michelle. And then Michelle goes, so... There's legitimately that long of a pause. Brittany... You mentioned that you felt uncomfortable on your birthday around Danny. I love the producer sitting down Michelle next season of like, loving your work. We're going to need you to speed it up. Just producers in the background of every scene, like with their like fingers on their watch, like speed, speed, speed. And so Michelle's like, Brittany said you were uncomfortable. And they're like, yeah. Somebody says, yeah, she did do that. And then Brittany's like, oh shit, it's my turn. Well, oh, shucks. Well, Danny did get pretty drunk, and you were, like, following me around, and she starts laughing. Like, this is not even something that wait, why are we loud? Like, well, you did me, dude. Yeah, Danny did get pretty drunk, and Danny was, like, following me around for a little bit. But you didn't, touch on me or nothing. You didn't touch on me. I love the way she said, you didn't touch on me. You didn't touch on my knobbers or my butters. You didn't touch on me or nothing, And then Danny's like, of course I didn't. Of course. And Brittany's like, his personality just very much changed. And okay. And he started being very flirtatious. Remember, this is the extended version on Peacock, which adds 6 more minutes. And they're not chunks of scenes, I've noticed. They're like little small lines here and there. But Brittany goes, I don't really know how to explain it, but it wasn't that same kind. It wasn't that same kind as it was on Halloween at Jax's saloon. And Nia goes, I think that's important to specify. And then Andy's like, whoa, you just, well, first off, let's slow it down, folks. This is insane. And this is where, people have been speculating that Brittany being fed shit from Jax since the first season, it truly was this, let's take down Danny and Nia. Now, I think the truth lies somewhere in between, right? I do, and this is a very unpopular opinion, but I don't know how people can't have this same opinion. You can have a drinking problem and still be a good person. You can still have issues with alcohol that does change your behavior and still be a good person. And I believe, in my own personal opinion, that an alcohol problem does not mean that you drink every day. It means that when you do drink, you drink to excess, that it changes you to some degree, where there are situations that happen, right? But Brittany kind of laughing at it is so weird. Like, oh, I busted. They just used my name. And it's hard because then Janet is the ringleader of this, which never looks good on these shows. I don't think it looks good in real life either, but it never looks good on these shows when one person is having to spearhead a takedown. And the takedown is based on stuff that we have never seen. None of this, besides sneaking to a pantry and having a couple of chugs of tequila, which I think is pretty tame on a show that we've seen like cocaine use being hidden. And we've seen, and still to this day, that Santa Barbara trip, seemed all pretty shit can. Brittany was like, I'm doing all shots on my way. And by the way, drink it up, man. You're on TV. You don't have your kids there. Oh my God, they have kids. I forgot once again. But none of the behavior that they're talking about with Danny is on camera. But like I've said, the last handful of episodes, if I were Danny, I would not be drinking at all on camera. And I would really strongly actually consider or reconsider drinking at all in my life. He has too much at risk. He really does have a beautiful family. It's like when I always said with Jax when they started the Valley, he always said he had this beautiful family. Why risk it? The odds are reality television will not do you favors. It's only going to fatten your bank account. That's it. Because there will be some aspect of your personality that you don't believe you have a problem with that you will find out you do have a problem with. And then you will fight that problem because you do not want to admit that it is a problem. But yeah, Janet does have that, like, it appears on the show, Janet has this, I'm going to tell you how it is, and this is wrong, and so I will come down on you. And like I said at the very beginning, is that if I actually believed Janet cared for Danny in any sort of way, you might in some ways be like, okay, well, they do care for each other. And I see a path back to friendship, but I don't believe Janet does want to be friends with Danny, and probably not with Nia at this point. But yeah, no. So I don't think there is a path back for this at all. So Andy stops and is like, whoa. You guys, you just said he grabbed people. And Jason's like, I didn't say, no, I didn't say he grabbed people, because now we are getting into speculation and accusation. And Jason as a lawyer, I mean, that's really murky territory, right? And so he's like, no, I didn't say he grabbed people. And Andy goes, yeah, you did. He said he did. You said he did the same thing. Janet was like, he's done the same type of behavior. And Janet goes, no, he's done things other times. It wasn't just Jasmine and Melissa. And Andy has this face like, okay. And there's a pause, and Danny cocks his head like a dog, like, huh? And there's a big pause. Jasmine kind of shakes her head, yes. And then Andy goes, Danny, Jasmine said in Santa Barbara that she knows you have a drinking problem. Wait. Andy, slow it down, man. I feel like we got 30 minutes of like, okay, specifically, what are you saying? And I don't know sometimes if that's legality of like, we can't go down this road because we don't have any proof of this besides what Janet is saying. We do know the Melissa Jasmine situation happened, right? We do know that without a shadow of a doubt. Because we've seen now, I think, about 17 or 18 apologies. But we were not there for any of these other situations. And then you had Jax Taylor, who should not be trying to take anybody down, trying to take down Danny on the finale, which he apologized for in the last part of the reunion, right? So Andy's like, Danny, do you think you have a drinking problem? And he kind of looks stunned, like, And then Jasmine goes, well, the only reason I said I know you have one is because of what you did. I felt like there has to be some kind of issue or something with alcohol. And you can see, because I'm looking at it very closely, that Danny all of a sudden has a little forehead sweat. And, he's legitimately in the hot seat. He has the hot potato. Now, before Danny can answer, Jason hops in, and Jason's like, do you think you have a drinking problem? And Dana's like, no, man, I actually haven't had a drink in a few weeks. It's hard to get things in Santa Clarita. But also, I was hoping that he said since filming, but he said just in a few weeks. And then Jason says, everybody on this stage has issues with alcohol, to be honest with you. And this is when Jax wakes up and he's like, huh? How dare you? What? Wait, where'd you get that from? What? Huh? I love Jax. He's like, huh? You said out? No, that's fucking slander, dude. I will sue your ass, Jason. No. I love, like, everybody on this stage has issues with alcohol. He said the quiet part out loud. And then Andy goes, well, let me ask you this. And then Doute is like, whoa, 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 whoa. And Jason goes, the fact that you won't even admit that you have any issues with it, Danny? And Doute's like, Jason. And Jason's like, that's not normal. And then Danny goes, do you have a drinking problem, Jason? And Jason goes, it's a battle for me. If I'm going to choose a drink, it's something that every time I have to think about. Damn, that's kind of interesting what Jason just said right there. I have to think about it every time I have a drink. Guys, season 3 of The Valley, I just have a feeling they're going to be in an open bar and everybody's just staring blankly at the bartender, not wanting to order the drink. They're like, club soda, let's take a Diet Coke. You going to have one? No, I'm not going to have. You going to have one? No. You know, like, by the next season 3, that pantry is going to be completely full of every cast member of The Valley. Of like, it's just going to be stumbling in the darkness. Like, what are you doing back here? What are you doing back here? What are you like? Where's the bottle? I'm just trying to take a drink. Like, everybody is now going to be scared shitless to have a drink on The Valley after what Jason said. And Doute goes, you can't say everybody on this stage has a problem. Zack has this look of like, girl, like, true that. And Jax, like, they have a shot of Jax where he's like, ugh, he sighs. Ugh. Doute goes, that's just such a bold-ass statement to make about everybody. And then Jason goes, well, I guess I've never hung out with Andy. Andy's taking strays now. Andy actually, they take a shot of his chair. He's not there. He's in a pantry drinking. And Brittany goes, you made a joke about Andy. Janet says, all of us are lying when our doctor says, how many drinks a week do you have? That's another dark state. Like I want to see doctor visits next season. We're all lying to our doctors. But Luke goes, I don't lie. God bless you, Luke. God bless you, Luke. You pale, bearded, shorts-wearing mother effer. How bless you, man. And then Danny goes, what are we talking about? And then Jesse Lally goes, let me step in. I know issues with alcohol. Danny does not have a drinking problem. He goes out and he gets fucked up. Jax, there's a shot of Jax smiling like, he. I don't even know what that smile's about. Sometimes he makes mistakes. And like I said, sometimes he's fucking hilarious. That time when he grabbed Jasmine and Melissa's ass, fucking top-notch comedy. Carrot Top couldn't do better on his best day. And like I said, he doesn't have a drinking problem. And then Jason's like, whoa, can we define a drinking problem? What is a drinking problem? Jesse goes, to be honest with you, I think the person who wakes up and the first thought in the morning is like, and Janet goes, no, that's an alcoholic. Janet's the one to clarify. And Jesse's like, yes, exactly, Janet. And Janet goes, I think there's a difference between an alcoholic and a drinking problem. And then Jason's like, oh, well, you're right. And Janet goes, well, I think there's problematic behavior. We see a shot of Danny and Nia looking at each other like, this bitch. Jason goes, I think we're talking, and Janet talks over him, of drinking and needing to drink every day. And Jason goes, you know what would be a problem to me? A whole storyline about my drinking on a TV show. And then there's a shot of Jax. It's a great shot of Jax because Jason is referring to Danny of like, there's a whole storyline about my drinking problem. When they remind us, there's a whole fucking like 10-year arc of Jax's cocaine/alcohol problem, yet we are fucking going after Danny. And we have shit with Jax on camera. Hi, Jax, if you're listening. By the way, I forgot to say, if you're a Valley cast member, don't be listening. It's not good for your mental health. But I think that's the frustrating part about Jason is that this anger and rage, we're all very confused that it's not directed at Jax, but really doubly directed at Danny. And like I said, I agree. That is very troubling behavior. And I do think there is a drinking problem if that's what he's doing when he's drinking, right? But Danny's like, that's why I didn't drink half of the shooting. And Jason goes, I didn't want to get all worked up and like make this a thing because they're good people, which is a weird backtrack at this moment. They're good people. And Janet goes, sober. And then there's a shot of Jax like with a downturn, like, huh? Like an upside down smile. And Jason goes, they have a beautiful family, which we are trying to ruin. And Danny's like, you just called me a clown. I can't show my face in Santa Clarita. And then Jesse Lally goes, you should apologize for calling him a clown. And then Jason goes, he is a clown. And Jesse's like, he is not a clown. Now, if Jesse Lally ever was the one to say I'm not a clown, I almost would be like, oh shit, that means I am a clown. And then Danny's like, yeah, you're name calling. You're name calling. And then Jason goes, you're right. That was immature. I shouldn't have called you a name. And then Brittany goes, I can say not one of us think that you're like a bad person. Really? Because I feel like Janet does think he's a bad person. And I think Brittany in private conversations probably agrees with Janet. And I think Michelle thinks he's a bad person as well. And this is on a cast with Jesse and Jax. Brittany goes, I think it was these certain incidents that you just acted out of your character. And then there's a big pause and Andy goes, okay. I feel like we got a lot of mileage left, Andy. I hate to disagree with the king, but geez. Okay, rumors about Jason ditching his wedding band was one ring toss game that Janet refused to play. And Jasmine has this face of like, oh, here we go. And we flash back to the pool party where Luke's like, I heard a rumor that Jasmine heard that you take your ring off sometimes at bars. And Jason's like, that's crazy. And Janet's like, what? What? And Jason going, I'm so happy that this is what it is, because I was so nervous what you were going to tell me. We get back to the reunion, and he goes, Jasmine, Jason thinks you made up the ring rumor. How did you feel to be accused of this by someone that you were such pals with? And Jasmine says, I was just hurt that the fact that you thought that I would go out of my way to make a rumor about you taking off your ring. First of all, that is the worst whack rumor, Jasmine says, I've ever heard in my life. Are you kidding me? Okay, this is what I will say, too. We don't get really any information more about the rumor and the ring, so I feel like it undercuts this whole little segment to begin with. First off, like I said earlier, didn't really think this was a thing to begin with at all, you know? And third, what are we even doing with our lives, guys? What do we even know? I don't think this is a thing at all, but I will say on reality television is that they want adversarial topics. I have no doubt that producers have conversations throughout the season with people of like, okay, what have you heard about Jason? Is there anything weird you've heard? You know, so I do believe this information is floating around, and I do believe they are encouraged to bring up this information. This is not scripted, but these are actual things that they've heard and maybe seen with their own eyes, but reality TV shows make you run into that goofy fire instead of run away from it, which is what a lot of us do in our lives. Zack pipes up and he's like, because obviously no one believes that off the bat. And Jasmine's like, that is the wackest rumor. Like, give me more respect. And Doute turns to Luke going, I could do way better than that. Yeah, you could, Doute. We need you to step it up in season 3. I'm joking. You're ethereal. Stop. Jasmine says, maybe it was my fault for speaking on it when I was in frustration with Janet. I love the way she turned when I was in frustration. It reminded me of that one season of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City where Heather Gay was in a fight with Whitney. And Whitney was like, come back here, Heather. And she's like, I need to have a think. I need to be alone and have a think. And she was like, the producer was like, Heather. She's like, I need to have a think. And I was like, you need to just collect your thoughts. I need to have a think. When I was in frustration with Janet, but I didn't make this up and I didn't lie. Jasmine had a decently strong reunion appearance, I think. And he says, I was so surprised weeks after I thought that this had been put to bed by seeing Janet, you and Jason going to get the ring tattoos. At this party, they focus on Jason's hand, and we see that he has now a full blackout sleeve tattoo. The ring has, this is great. By the third season, Jason's body's just fully tattooed with like, I love Janet and Jason forever. If you love me, press 1, press 2. You know, like I would just love if just like fucking like Robert De Niro in that movie Cape Fear when he's doing push-ups in prison. Jason's body's just all ripped up and it just has Janet and Jason forever. But Annie goes, you went and got a ring tattoo to debunk a rumor that you said you didn't care about. And then we flash back to the needle buzzing. And remember, Jason, this is how sensitive he is. I appreciated a sensitive man where he was like almost tearing up at the ring tattoo. And Janet sits down. She's like, I don't feel any, I can't even feel an earthquake. And so they both have these rings. And Janet in the reunion says it wasn't necessarily to debunk. It was also like, once this is out, it feels like a can of worms. You can't put it back. And I've been telling Jason has never had a tattoo before this. I wanted him to get one. It felt like kind of a fun excuse to like make light of it. make fun of ourselves, make fun of the situation. And I kind of always wanted a wedding band tattoo, Janet says. I thought it was cool, and so we had a day of it. And this is another thing where it's like, this is another storyline where I believe producers are like, okay, so this rumor's out there. What are you going to do about that? What are you going to do? And, I could see, I don't know if this is how it's done, but I could see, we've always wanted to get a tattoo. Maybe we get a tattoo of our rings. Would that be something interesting? Like, I could see that's how these shows are sometimes put together. Could be completely wrong, just a shot in the dark. But I think it's an informed shot in the dark. Also, I think they were underestimating how much people even cared about that because, once again, did not believe it at all. So they didn't have to. And it's much different than Michelle later in this reunion saying, I was called a hooker, and if you Google my name, it says I'm a hooker. Or Jax, or, like those things, when you do a Google search, that comes up. But to me, this was the lesser of all of the accusations this season. Andy says, Zach, you said it was comical that Janet and Jason laughed off the ring rumor at the shark party. I'm having a shark party. I'm Brittany. I love sharks. I love shots and sharks. Sharks party. Sharks. But later made a big deal of it. Why do you think they did that? And Zach's like, I think they were like, oh, well, I guess this is our storyline. And I think they went home and thought about it. Yeah, exactly. And Janet goes, well, at first I was laughing this off because I know it's not true. But it also made me realize, and we see a shot of Luke laughing and Zach shaking his head laughing. Janet goes, but it also made me realize our friendship is not getting to a better place, referring to Kristen. That's not going to help us get to a peaceful place this summer. And I was bummed about that. And the only way to fix a bum thing is to get just inked up. No, she goes, and also it was a joke that Jason and I have a pretty calm, boring marriage in that sense. Sure, we're pansexual and we're part of Cody Brown's Sister Wives collective, but pretty boring other than that. No, but then Doute fires back and she goes, so now you're relevant. Woo! Doute bringing the smoke. And he goes, do you owe Kristen an apology for making you relevant? And Doute goes, ha ha ha. Brittany doesn't do one of her. And Jenna goes, no. This is going to be out there publicly. People are going to be questioning his character. You have to own up to that. And then Doute goes, people don't care. There is an element of truth to what Doute is saying. And I will, just reading the discourse around this, people are not questioning Jason about his ring. People are questioning the actual relationship that the two of them have as what we see with the edit. That's what I see people questioning. I don't see it brought up at all. Just being honest with you, right? Do you guys see that a lot? It's just not the first thing that is talked about in regards to the Valley trauma. Doute goes, the only people that perpetuated this the whole summer long were you two. And Luke's like, no one talked about it but you two. Doute goes, one person. And Jenna goes, well, and Doute goes, I don't mean this in an asshole way, but it's literally you're not important for fans to care that much about. And Jason, it seems like he has some tears in his eyes and kind of shakes his head. And that was a low blow. That would hurt. That one would hurt you. But not in Janet's defense, but I will say it's like what we talked about earlier is that they don't want us to enjoy these shows. They sometimes want us to be angry at these shows. And angry is a reaction, just like love is, just like happiness and laughter, which is sometimes what we would love to see in this show. We've never seen it in this show, but people have such a strong reaction to Janet. And am I crazy to say there is a thin line between love and hate? Yeah, I actually did sound a little crazy when I heard it coming out of my mouth. But she had a strong reaction. So when people are like, Janet needs off the show, no way. There's too strong of a reaction. There's no way I would pull her from this show. No way. People genuinely lose their minds talking about Janet. You would not lose that character. Doute goes, after the shark party, when you guys both laughed, I looked right at you and I said, I was just being an asshole. Remember Doute did from multiple times throughout the season going, I was just being an asshole. And remember, she was saying it because she was pissed that she felt they were coming for Danny and Nia, right? She was very open about that. Doute says, you hurt my friends. I came after you. I told you that to your face. The four of us sat down and Jason kind of rolls his eyes and Doute's like, Jason, roll your eyes. I'm being honest. And Jason's like, we hurt your friends. What are you talking about? We hurt your friends. Even I was like, what? And Danny's like, what? What? Because Jason, I mean, I sometimes, like Jason said earlier in one of the reunions where he's like, I've watched the show. I don't know why people are all upset about Janet, or I watched the show. What show are you watching? And I think it is that these two people are truly in love with each other. So when you watch it, it is colored with these rose-colored glasses of love that you're like, oh, that's my love, Janet. So you're not seeing what the audience is seeing. But like, Jason, you don't see what Doute is saying in this moment? And Danny's like laughing, almost like, what are you talking about? And Jason's like, yeah. And Jason's like, we're going to get into that. Don't worry. And then Janet kind of under her breath to Jason goes, oh, of course the ass grabber is laughing. And that is one of those moments where I'm like, oh yeah, she's not interested in being friends with Danny. There's not real friendship there. That's where I'm like, I don't feel like they have had a deep friendship before the start of filming The Valley. So I feel like it's one of those easy characters. Like they don't have a history. They might grow eventually, depending on how long this show lasts, to have a friendship that is built over years, but they didn't have one that felt like a deep friendship probably before The Valley started filming. Right? So Janet is saying shit like this. And once again, these hot mic moments sometimes tell the whole story. And those hot mic moments are not heard by the rest of the people on these couches that are elongated, which seems like for miles. I mean, Zach's in fucking like Barstow on this couch. And I sometimes wonder what I'm talking about in anger when the cast watches the reunion back. Those are the moments that are going to cause frustration going into season 3. Doute goes, I told you to your face, I was just trying to be a bitch. And Jason's like, but why are we not allowed to be mad about you being a bitch? And Doute goes, it's not that you're not allowed to be mad, but you guys would not shut the fuck up about it for the whole entire summer. And Jason's like, we weren't even talking to you about it. I was actually more upset at Jasmine over the ring thing because as her being the source, by the way, exactly. That's what I was so like curious about the whole thing. It was like Jasmine was the one that was brought up to it. Why is Jasmine not the one being questioned more about all of this? Because I don't think Jasmine made it up, but I was just so like, where's the rest of the information? Why is Doute included in this at all? Because Doute is going to do what Doute does. Doute does, right? But Jason's like, yeah, Jasmine, all of it, 3 of us had an amazing friendship. And Jasmine's like, I know. Doute goes, I mean, you say I make shit up though. And Jason's like, we weren't even going after you, though, during the season, which is weird verbiage from Jason. We weren't even going after you, which does mean they were going after other people. And obviously, I think it would be Danny, but we weren't even going after you. I thought that was such an interesting way to put things. You got to study these things. These are like ancient texts. These are like the Dead Sea Scrolls, you guys. But Doute's like, I watched the show, Jason. And Jason's like, so did I. And we have a shot of Zach like rolling his eyes like, what show did you watch, girl? And Doute's like, Doute says, you called me a liar. And Janet goes, it was kind of a shitty thing to say. And Doute says, and you said my reputation and shit like that. I do not have a reputation of making things up or being a liar. And Janet goes, exaggerating. And Doute goes, I have a reputation for uncovering the truth. There is a reason they call me Detective Doute. I have a reputation for uncovering the truth and not exaggerating. I love that. I have a reputation. There's a shot of Jax who legitimately looks like he's like, Grandpa, let's get you to bed, bud. It's been a long day. He's just like, he looks like he's dozing off, right? And he goes, Doute, is that your reputation? And Doute goes, uncovering the truth? And he goes, yeah. And inserting myself in places that's none of my business. She goes, and inserting myself in places that's not my business. A self-aware queen, Doute is. Doute goes, blurting things out, not being a liar, not exaggerating, not my reputation. Shot of Michelle looking like, ah. And he goes, Jasmine, at the beach, you screamed at Janet, saying that she was a shit-ass friend, she's a vibe killer, and she gives Karen energy. What did Janet do that made you so mad? And Jasmine goes, I wanted to talk to Jason. And as I'm talking to Jason, Janet's just spitting at me. You're a snake, you're a liar. And Jason goes, whoa, that didn't happen. And Jasmine goes, you go snake. And Janet goes, if they have that footage, they should roll it because I do not remember saying that. Okay, so this is interesting verbiage as well. Once again, we got to study the text. Is Janet saying if they have that footage, they should roll it? First off, she's right. She was not the one saying it. They do roll the footage, and it is actually Jason that says something to that effect. But this shows you, and this is, I'm a fan of reality television, and so is Janet. But these are the things that we as viewers always scream out of, like, where's that footage? Roll that footage if they have it. But that's like Janet is aware of how reality shows work. And I'm not saying that means like, oh, she's dying to get on reality TV, but you can't put the rabbit back in the hat. You know how shit is made. I think Janet is probably and has always probably paid attention to how, by the way, Janet also would be somebody that everybody's going to be, fuck you. But like, I would love an unhinged book from Janet about all the stories that all the cast of Vanderpump Rules have told Janet over the years. I mean, just like we didn't know about the Scheana and Brock thing. Like, think about all the shit we don't know. Because half of the job of a reality star, like after your season 1, is hiding, like what you can hide from cameras as opposed to what you can tell the truth about on cameras. There is stuff we are finding out. Like, we just found out about Scheana making out with Schwartz, like the first season of Vanderpump Rules in Vegas, right? But Jasmine goes, Janet, you were like this. You were like snake liar. You were like this. Snake liar. And Jasmine keeps going, snake liar. You were like this, snake liar. And Janet goes, yeah, if they have that footage, they should show it. And Andy goes, they will. And Jasmine's like, yeah, you wouldn't let me talk. And Janet goes, I would love that, Andy. And Jason's like, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And so we do roll that footage. Jasmine's like, the ring thing, I don't care. I'm fucking done with it. We're done. We're done. And it was not Janet saying that. And Janet goes, no. And Jasmine's like, yes, you did. So once again, this is like, I say this every week. It doesn't matter that we see this fucking footage. I want them to watch the footage so Jasmine in the moment can go, oh, I must have misremembered that situation. Which also leads to a fascinating conversation that I think we should all have with ourselves is how good is our memory? Do you ever wonder? I was driving down Sunset Boulevard today and we were at Mel's Diner on Sunset. And I remember being at Mel's Diner like 20 years ago. And I was like, oh, I think I was in that booth over there. Like I was trying to remember. But I was like, can I be sure? Like sometimes our memories fail us. Like there have been certain situations where I'm like, oh no, my buddy was like, no, that's not how it happened at all. It was like this. And we all, time does weird things to our memories. And then we just kind of build on it in our minds and it becomes resolute fact. I'm not saying that we're not 100% right most of the time, but sometimes we do get things wrong. But Jason's like, no, Jasmine, I called you a snake, the biggest snake in the grass. So there's a big pause and Doute's like, see? Jasmine goes, anyways, you wouldn't let me speak in that moment. And I was just like, let me speak to Jason. Explain to him the situation. And he goes, Jason, were you surprised to see Jasmine get upset with you guys like that? And Jason's like, I mean, I think my face in that scene, you can see I was shocked by that reaction. And Jasmine's like, yeah, me too. And Jason goes, I think that's why I reacted so strongly. And Jasmine's like, yeah, calling me a snake. I was like, Jason goes, well, what I was experiencing in that moment was like, wow, this person must be the most two-faced person I've ever met in my life. And Jasmine goes, no. Jason goes, because I thought we were great. And Jasmine goes, we are great. And Jason goes, but in that moment, why would I feel like we're great when you're going at my wife for no reason? And Jasmine goes, I was going at her because in that moment, she wouldn't let me speak. And then Jason made a couple weird moves here. Jason goes, do you feel like you were manipulated at all? And Jasmine goes, was I? And Jason shakes his head. And then Zack goes, by who? And then there's a shot of Doute's face where she's like, Zoinks! Do you mean me, the truth teller, Detective Doute? And Doute literally goes, me? And then Luke goes, shh, wait for your turn. The producers need to find a way to get Luke. Luke is not healthy for toxicity next scene. Like the producers are going to have to try to find ways to get Luke lost in a scene. Like, Luke, can you go pick up the bagels for the scene that we're going to need for the scene? And then they're like, yeah, it's over here on Ventura Boulevard. Like they're going to send him on like wild goose chases just to keep him out of the action because Luke is like very like, no, don't say that. No, shh, don't. This isn't your fight. This isn't your fight. And that is healthy in real life. It's not healthy. But and also to shh to Kristen Doute. And Doute is like, to fucking Kristen Doute? Luke must have balls the size of Gina's boyfriend Travis on Real Housewives of Orange County. The huge balls, Travis, they always talk about every episode. Anyways, but Jasmine's like, manipulated by people? No, Jasmine manipulated by AI. Yes, by people. So Jason is trying to say he feels the subtext is manipulated by Doute. And Jason's like, this season, watching it back. And then Doute turns to Luke, stop telling me to shh. And Luke goes, babe. He's like, oh, I'm just trying to I just don't want your water to break on this expensive couch. And then Janet, like, there's a lot of reaction shots that last for a second too long. But Jasmine's like, I don't think I was manipulated. I don't think so. No. And Annie goes, who do you think she was manipulated by? Kristen? And then Kristen zoinks again, even though she already knew it was her. Kristen's like, huh? And Jason goes, listen, I watched the show. I don't think Jason watched the show. I don't think he watched the show because, anyways, Jason goes, it looked to me like Kristen doesn't like Janet. So she's talking to people and saying like, no, this is Janet. And Jasmine's like, no. And then Jason goes, Janet was like the scapegoat for everyone. I watched the show. You guys were, and Doute goes, what show did you watch? We later did find out Jason was actually watching Deadliest Catch on the Discovery Channel. So Jason just, turns out Jason was watching Love on the Spectrum. But everybody's laughing and Danny's like, I know, you watched as her husband, dude. And then everybody's kind of laughing. And Doute goes, I swear to God, what the fuck show are you watching? And then more like Janet looking kind of miserable and Jason looking miserable and Zach and Jasmine looking at each other. Like it really is like a game of Clue. This is the murder mystery of like, who did it? Was it Zach in the Sir Alley with a bottle of lube? Weird. Come back from break and we don't hop back in. We always have these like, they're like downtime. Like, so they're sitting on the couches while they're not rolling. And Andy turns to Brittany. He's like, will you lead us in a prayer, Brittany, later? And Brittany's like, yeah, sure. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. I want to pray for shots, sharks, and tombs and special forces. And Andy goes, Brittany, your hair looks great. And she goes, thank you. And Andy turns to Jax and goes, your hair looks good too, Jax. And Jax says, I'm not happy with it, but it's okay. And then Janet says, Jax, can we admit now that the hair loss party you had, which was on the first season, you didn't have a bald spot? And Jax goes, I did. Look. And he see, this is weird. Like we're all buddying up. Like, do we forget just a scant couple of hours ago, we talked about Jax pushing Brittany into a rose bush that on the Ring camera that everybody saw. And now it's like, you don't really have a bald spot. Let me check out your pubes. Like, what? This is when I get confused as a viewer watching. Also, he did have a bald spot because they showed the bald spot on season 1. Like, it was definitely that. I mean, there was one time Jax was not lying. The funny part of that was Jax spray painted that bald spot in with spray paint. Which, I mean, I think had we checked, it's like, did that affect his brain? It can't be good. And then Jenna goes, Zach might be able to introduce you to a good wig guy, Jax. And Jack goes, ha 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 ha. We are back with the Valley Season 2 reunion. Jasmine, we've seen you yell at Janet and then make up with Janet. How do you really feel about her? And Jasmine goes, listen, I have been friends with her the longest out of everybody here, and she's always going to be like family to me. You know, like, I feel like you fight with your siblings, you fight with your friends. That's just what we do. I fight with Zach all the fucking time. And Zach's like, yeah. But I just want you to know that there was never like, oh my God, I hate Janet type of thing. I think there's different layers of issues that we do have that we need to like talk about because like our friendship hasn't been the same. Like we don't talk at all, you know? And Janet agrees with her, like kind of sadly shaking her head, yes. And Jasmine says, that does hurt, but I don't hate you. There's no like there. You know, like there's a lot of love. Melissa made a good point. A lot of people were upset that Melissa was never brought up, but I think that would have opened this weird can of worms that we would have had to have the periphery characters like Scheana and Lala, which I still to this day don't understand why they were on the after show, but we didn't have Friends Up come out, right? But Jasmine says, Melissa made a good point while we were watching, and you guys were crying in your house, and I was crying at home. And we cut to that scene in season 2 when they have their son, and Janet's in the son's ball pit, which at first I didn't even put together it was the kids' ball pit, because I was like, fuck, I do need a ball pit for the house. Like, I was like, sometimes I cry, get emotional, and I was like, I just need to put myself in a ball pit sometimes. And then I realized it was for their baby, and I was like, oh, fuck. Because I was Googling like adult ball pits, and there was some really weird things that popped up. But this was the scene where they kind of tried to humanize Janet, where she's crying to Jason in front of their son. And the talking head was Janet saying, Jasmine's been a close friend for many years, and I feel like she's discarding our friendship. And we see all of these pictures throughout the years with the two of them. She doesn't have the same care for me that I have for her. So it's honestly really sad. And to find out that they really don't talk a lot since filming Wrapped, that's a long chunk of time, right? Jasmine says, Melissa's like, see, there's love there. You guys like clearly love each other, and I know that. But I do think Janet also is one of those people potentially where she feels like she's been crossed. She will draw a hard line. Because I think it's like maybe Janet's way or the highway, or that's sometimes how it appears on the show. Doute says, there's love, but there's still shit talking, Jasmine. Come on. And Jasmine's like, of course. No, there is. And I think the problem is like, and Doute goes, I mean, we have a group chat that you just talk shit. So Doute throwing Jasmine under the bus. So that kind of lends a little credence to Jason going, you were led in this direction. So even Doute in this moment, like trying to remind people like, hey, Jasmine talks mad shit about Janet in text exchanges. Jasmine goes, no, I get that. I am upset with her. And I said that there's things that we need to talk about. Janet asked Sandy for some tissues. And Kristen's like, yeah, I mean, you do talk shit about her. And Jasmine goes, no, it's not talking shit. I'm upset. There's like frustration and things that me and her need to talk about. Here's my thing. It's just like a buildup of things. And Doute goes, Janet stopped acting like herself? And Jasmine goes, yeah, a little bit. And Jason goes, don't say that. That's not true. It's not true to you, man. Like, because I believe their relationship is probably the same as it's always been, except that now you're dealing with the stressors of being on a reality television show and all of us hooligans commenting on you. Why am I saying hooligans so much today? I feel like I'm in like Insane Clown Posse. But, you know, I hope Jason can open his mind up to, yes, it doesn't feel that way to you because your relationship is the same, but maybe to other people that have been close with each other, you know, like it could be different, right? But also, I think reality TV exacerbates those relationships. But Janet says, I wish you would have come to me as a friend. And Jen's like, yeah, I should have come to you and say, hey, I have this issue. But at the time, I kind of just felt like, what was the point? Because I didn't think it would get to you. And he says, who here thinks Janet's a Karen? And nobody raises their hand. I would have liked to have taken a step further, and I would have liked to blindfold everybody and then have Andy ask that question. And say, or like, we're going to turn the camera. Like, I would like to see, because everybody knows, but nobody raises their hand. And Jasmine goes, okay, here's the thing. It was Karen energy. I was like, it was a hint of Karen. It was a taste of Karen, an amuse-bouche of Karen, but it wasn't full Karen. Doute says, she said Karen energy. She didn't say she's a Karen. Come on, guys. We have to realize our Karen verbiage here. Jasmine goes, I didn't call her a Karen. It was the energy she was given. And I think it was just more like just exhausted of you, the whole Zack stuff and like Kristen and just hearing things. And I should have maybe come to you and be like, hey, this is how I feel. I didn't. And he says, it's clear that the three of you care about each other. A classic Andy Cohen reunion move. It's clear that there is a friendship here, that really there is a really strong bond here. Andy goes, so are you three good right now? And Janet says, we're in a place where when we see each other that we're cordial. I have nothing, and she sighs, I have nothing bad to say about you or Melissa. I have a lot of love for you guys, and I think you guys are great people, Janet says. The hardest thing about this for me was that I do like you guys so much. You guys are the people that come over in sweatpants and cook and play games and eat our casseroles. You guys are real friends, you know? I miss you guys. And Jasmine keeps going, yeah. And Jasmine goes, I mean, our relationship's not the same like it used to be. Like, let's keep that real, 100. You know, but I mean, maybe one day? I don't know. And Jason goes, I would hope so. I think we all feel that way. And he goes, okay, all right. After a 30-day stint, Jax left the mental health drug rehab Taco Bell / KFC treatment facility and seemed intent on picking up right where he left off with the group. Now, Jax, the night before you returned home, some of your friends rebranded your bar Brit's Bar. And we flash back to Brittany like, oh my God, shut up. Oh my God, shut up. Shut up. Oh my God. Oh my God, shut up. Shut. You were upset when you found out about that, right? I mean, who wouldn't be upset? If they take somebody's shitty bar and then rename it to a shitty name like Brit. I mean, I understand why they did it. But taking my signs and throwing it in the garbage was a little much. And he was like, that was a different situation. That wasn't my party? And Brittany's like, no, it wasn't Brit's bar. It was whenever me and Jasmine went to talk to Schwartz. And I was telling them everything that you just done. And Jax goes, and I wasn't there for that. No, you weren't there for any of it. It was really hurtful, obviously. And he goes, by the way, they were trying to prop her up was the point of it. No, I understand. Do you understand? It was all very positive. It was all very positive. And he goes, maybe if you saw their intention was trying to help her out. No, it wouldn't have changed anything, Andy. What are you smoking? I understand, but it's still hurtful. A man hurts. Nobody talks about how a man bleeds. Doute says the bar never got to be about her, and she worked so hard on it and put money into it. Oh my God, I just realized that whole fucking flower wall that she did, all those flowers died and they kept them on the walls. That would be one of those dead things would be good for my reality show museum. Brittany goes, even when you were in rehab, I was keeping that place afloat with my boobies. And I don't know why I did that. I look back and I'm like, why did I even do that for you? And he goes, Zach, are you allowed into Jax's bar? And Jax goes, no. He came with me almost every single time I went while he was in rehab. And your partners were so grateful that he was there. Kristen goes, they're grateful that any of us are there. They should be grateful that any of us were there. Zach goes, it's really funny that Jax has such this animosity towards just me or can forgive anybody else. But what I want to say is I used to be the biggest Jax apologist. I was there every single time when she was broken down and I had to pick her up, or when he would break down and I would hold him while he cried. Oh my God, Zach's saying I would hold Jax while he cried. And this just also shows you that was a real relationship that really never made it to cameras because it's pre-Valley. I mean, I know people that know Jax that would always be like, no, he's a good guy. It's really, really weird. But Zach is like, yeah, man, he was a Jax apologist. Zach says, and for him to turn so hard on me, on her and on me, and just out of nowhere. And Zach goes, it's just the stuff you're saying on social media. The fact that you, of all people, would have umbrage with anything anybody says on social media based on what he says on social media is wild. And Zach's like, what would you want me to do? And Zach's tweet comes up, riddle me this. How is it possible you come out of rehab a worse person than when you went in? And Zach goes, I mean, yeah, the things I say on social media, are literally not even remotely close to what I would say about you if I was right now to your face. And Jack goes, I don't care, though. You're nobody to me. You're just Lego hair. That's all you are. And Zach goes, I actually miss our friendship. I don't care what you have to say. And Zach goes, I want you to be a better person. I don't really care what you want, Chief. Jason goes, Jax, I have to say, I've had my problems with Zach, but it sounds like he's actually really trying to give you an olive branch right now. You know what I mean? You guys do have a long history. Jason coming for Andy's job right now. Jason goes, you don't need any built-up animosity towards anybody. And he goes, I don't. And Jasmine goes, then let it go. And Zach goes, and also, you want to prove that you don't have this control issue, that you can be better? Then work on it with the people that are in her life. And he goes, I agree. So we went from, I don't care about this guy at all, to, I agree, begrudgingly. Can I be on season 3 now? Come on, can I have a bar back? And then Andy goes, is Frank Dramon allowed in your bar? And everybody, especially Brittany's shotgun laugh. And Jax goes, who? And Zach goes, have you seen any of the episodes? And he goes, no. Brittany goes, we talked about it on the show. And they're talking about Frank Dramon. And then they realize that Jax hasn't watched the show, and Brittany goes, Jax didn't watch the show! Jax didn't watch the show! Why are we getting this fucking... Jax didn't watch the show, everybody! Woo! And Annie goes, we've all seen the show. And Brittany goes, he hasn't. He's the only person here that hasn't watched. He has no idea what he's talking about. And then Jax goes, my burner account. And then he goes, who's Frank Dramond? This even pissed me off with Andy because it's like, it's fucking Frank Drebin. Leslie Nielsen played him in Police Squad, and Liam Neeson plays him in the reboot. I mean, the son of. But it's not Frank Dramond. It's Frank Drebin from Naked Gun. But then Jax gets it wrong and goes, Frank Drebin from Naked Gun. It's Frank Drebin. He goes, you ever seen Naked Gun, Andy? And Andy's like, who is Frank Dramond? It's my burner account. Yeah. And Brittany goes, we outed you. He goes, it's not a big deal. And Brittany goes, you don't know what you did. And he goes, you commented on some posts, Jax, about you and said Jax is the man. And he goes, huh? And Brittany's like, yeah, you said Jax is a legend. He is the show. You know, what showed me a man in this world that wouldn't feel like about, he is a legend. And then we flash to that scene. He's a legend. He said about himself, legend. And then somebody wrote back and said, in his own mind. So we see that whole scene again. And Jenna goes, that was honestly the most fun I had all summer. I mean, that to me, that's so funny. That's like the good, like that's the feel good part of the Valley is finding somebody's burner account. And everybody goes, that was hilarious. And then you DM'd me on accident from the account, so it was like proof that it was yours. And Jax is like, whatever. And Jenna goes, come on, don't you know if you have a burner, you just look. Jenna knows all the rules. And Andy goes, are you still commenting as Frank Dramond? And he goes, no, I haven't used that account in a while, actually. It's Dremin. No, it's Drebin, you fucking tool. It's not fucking any of those names. It's Drebin, Drebin. And he goes, Jax, Brittany said you were selling one of her Jenny Craig's bags on eBay. Oh, man, I would have snatched that up in a second. I just got the Rambo lunchbox from his eBay page. Damn. But it would be crazy if that ring pops up, like the engagement ring pops up on Jax's eBay page. But they also point out that you could see Jax's bunion in the shot on the eBay page for the Jenny Craig bag. It's like, we know it's you because of your bunion. Jax says, I sold a bunch of stuff on eBay. I've had this eBay account for a very long time, right? We have all this stuff that we get for merch and all that stuff. And it's been sitting in the garage for fucking ever. A lot of this was during COVID. Uh-oh, we're getting in... And what's the deal with COVID anyway? Have we even gotten over that yet? I was like, we need to make some money. And I was just, Coke you don't get just free Coke. And Andy goes, were you able to sell it? He goes, I sold a lot of stuff. This one fucking knob bought a Rambo lunchbox from me. But I was like, I needed income coming in. I had no income. Like, stuff was sitting in the garage for months. Oh my God, that fucking page is about to blow up pretty soon. And then Jessica goes, you know what you should do? You should do an OnlyFans page where you talk about your eBay stuff, kind of like the QVC, but OnlyFans. I love Jesse says this, but also show your dick and butthole. And he goes, Kristen Jax decided to come to Benji's welcome home party, even though he wasn't invited. And then Doute goes, he pulled a Doute, right? You had the conversation with Zack where you said... and Jax says, I shouldn't have been there. And you had this conversation with Zack where you said it was your show. And we flash to Jax going, my show. And then Zack goes, it wasn't for the past 30 days. Mic drop. And he goes, I mean, wasn't telling Lisa Vanderpump that Vanderpump Rules was your show in season 8 kind of the beginning of the end for you? And he goes, probably. And then we flash back to that fateful scene in the final episode of, what was it, season 9? And Jax goes, this is why my show is successful, Lisa. And this is when Lisa woke up out of a coma. She's like, it's actually not your show, dear boy. It's my show. I can't believe Jax said it was his show. I can't believe that. And I put your ass on it, so don't be fucking disrespectful to me or Nick Lane. Let's not talk about that. And he says, raise your hand if Jax has referred to this show as his show. Literally everybody fucking raises their hand. Nobody raised their hand for Janet as a Karen, but everybody raised their hand. And Janet goes, yeah, he said, we're all lucky to be here. He goes, well, it's true. None of this would have happened if I didn't start this up. No, this is where Sandoval needs to walk out. Like, excuse me, buddy. Actually, none of this would happen if I wasn't here, dude. This was on the back of Scandal. And he goes, is this Jax's show, everybody? And they're like, no, he was gone for 30 days. Nobody missed him. Danny goes, you said you fired everyone from season 1. And Brittany goes, because you didn't like your edit. And Jax says, I never said that. I don't have that kind of... I love Jax's, like, they tell him very specific things that he said. And I always love when he'll be like, I didn't say that. Like, his only defense is always, I didn't say that. I don't have that kind of control. And then everybody goes, we know. We're like, we know. We know. And Danny goes, that's what you say, man. But this is something that brings the fun gang of friends back together. So we move to a new segment, and Andy is like, historically speaking, it's very difficult to surprise Kristen Doute. So Luke, Nia, Danny invited the gang to Maui for a covert proposal operation, hoping to elude Detective Doute. And by the way, there's like shots of people, and Janet and Jason do not look thrilled about this topic at all. And Danny says, Luke, from hooking up at a wedding in the bushes to getting engaged, when did you know Kristen was the one? And Luke says, well, it was a long road trip we did. There were 5,000 miles in the car with 4 dogs. It was pretty hellish. And Doute goes, the circumstances. Luke says, we were great throughout the entire thing. Never got after each other. And on the way back, it was a moment that's like, holy shit, am I ever going to find somebody that can get through this kind of chaos with me? Might as well lock her down. And Andy goes, and you had not watched Vanderpump Rules. And he goes, no, for the podcast, they do a podcast. We recap season 1, which, by the way, I was on one of those episodes recapping one of the seasons. And Brittany goes, they were already together at that point. Doute goes, and he was like, I can't do this anymore. Luke might truly be the healthiest person on there of watching it. I can't do this anymore. Doute goes, I was like, we're going to skip seasons 2 and 3. And then we can move forward. And Luke says, and he's like, I actually don't want to watch any of this. And he says, Kristen, when did you know that Luke was the one? And Doute says, I would say like the first 6 or 7 months, I was very much into him, but very much like, I don't want to be. It's what I do. It jumped from relationship to relationship. And we didn't live by each other, and just all of the logistics that I was just pushing it away. Like, nothing's going to work, but this is going to be super fun. He's young. He's 8 years younger than me. He's a stallion. So sometime after that, Doute says, when he said, I love you, and Luke says, I said, I love you early. And she goes, really early. And he goes, yeah, before the road trip. And Andy goes, is he the first one to say it? And Doute's like, yeah. And Andy goes, nice. And Luke goes, honestly, I backtracked after I said it. I said, like I really have love for you. I'm not in love with you. Why he backtracked? This would have been a great scene. Now, this would have been a heartfelt scene on the Valley. Doute says, and he was like shaking and sweating. He was like Ryan Bailey doing a live event. And he says, let's see the ring. Show the camera. This is a Kyle Chan original, you guys. Bling. And he goes, were you happy with it? And Doute goes, yeah, it's perfect. It's way bigger than what I told him I ever wanted. I'm not a big flashy person, but I was like, okay. And then Jason goes, it's over 4 carats, right? It's a lot of carats. Jason goes, it's over 4 carats, right? It's a lot of carats. And then Janet shoots him a look. I don't know what this look meant between Janet looking at Jason, like not thrilled that he said 4 carats, or at least that's what it looks like. It's still a weird moment. And he goes, were you genuinely surprised by the proposal? And she says, absolutely shocked. I still to this day think that she knew, but Luke swears to me up and down that she was fully surprised. Even after this engagement thing, I texted him. I was like, dude. And he goes, no. She says, fully surprised. Baby, will you be the catch of my lifetime? Baby, will you be my free Willy? And it was a very sweet moment in a toxic season, right? So we see that scene. Doute goes, I knew one day for sure he was going to do it, but definitely didn't think it was going to be on camera. it's actually something we talked about before. And Luke's like, yeah, it was. And Doute goes, I just thought maybe next year or something. Andy says, Luke, Danny, and Nia, you really need to be commended. Kristen is known for cracking cases. And Brittany goes, that's true. That's true. And he goes, you guys were able to pull it off. Jasmine and El Coyote, you came pretty close to spoiling the surprise for Kristen. And Nia goes, yeah, she was asking too many questions. And Jasmine's like, oh, yeah. And he goes, did you know what was going on? And Jasmine's like, no, I had no idea. But something I was like, what's going on here? And Doute's like, yeah, that was really crazy to watch back. And we flash to that scene in El Coyote where Janet's like chugging her drink. And Jasmine's like, well, Zack kept telling me there's like surprise things that he can't tell me about. I'm like, well, what is it? And she's telling Nia and Doute this. We didn't get to see this scene. And Nia's like, well, maybe it's Zack and I have been planning some like extra fun things. Nia trying to lie, even though she's super Christian. And he goes, Zack, I really appreciated how hard you worked. When you saw him hustling around, and Zack goes, you didn't even see half of it. You know Brittany's stewing right now. And Doute's like, yeah, I was crying watching that episode. Yeah, he was really working his ass off, Andy says. You could be a wedding planner. And Zack's like, I'll leave that to Brittany. And Brittany's like, you're damn right. And Brittany goes, yeah, watching that, you were really cute. Like running around and doing everything. I mean, I'd be better, but whatever. Short. And Doute goes, I'd like Zack in my life every day, pretty much. That's the kind of love he's looking for from you, Brittany. And he goes, Luke, Brittany felt left out that she wasn't included on the boat for the engagement. Why didn't you include Brittany, knowing that she's one of Kristen's best friends? Luke goes, I think you saw it play out why. Brittany and I did talk about it, is that Jack has a big mouth. He's like, no, I just have big nostrils. And if I had included her early, her chances of slipping to Jax and then it getting out and not being a surprise, that was the risk I saw and chose not to take. Oh man, Jax screwed something in Brittany's life up once again. And he says, Brittany, you ended up telling Jax about Kristen and Luke's engagement. And Brittany goes, oh, worst mistake of my life. Worst mistake of my life. I didn't take Tom's that day. I can't believe that. And he goes, you didn't do that out of revenge for not being included. And Brittany's like, no. Even Kristen and Luke knew I did not do that out of revenge. And Jax goes, and I'm so fucking sorry. I would never do that to them. And he goes, Jax immediately put it in the guys' group chat. And Lally goes, I will say, he gave me a hard time about it. I honestly thought, I'm sorry, I don't know what I was doing. And Zack goes, fucking group chat. And he goes, Kristen, how did you feel about Janet and Jason deciding to skip the engagement luau? And Doute's like, yeah, I mean, I think that was, and there's a big pause, and she goes, smart. I mean, if they had been there, it wouldn't have, like, pissed me off. Like, nothing, was going to ruin the night. And Jason's like, yeah, we wouldn't have come in guns blazing or anything. And Luke's like, yeah, I didn't think that. And Doute goes, I didn't think it would have mattered either way, but since they offered it, that was nice. And Jason goes, they weren't in a good place at all, referring to Janet and Doute. And Jason goes, this is the happiest day of her life. She doesn't necessarily want to see someone she doesn't like staring at her, and Janet doesn't want to put on a t-shirt that has her face on it. So it's sort of like, okay, the thing that made the most logical sense is to skip it. And then Lally goes, I will point out, give Michelle my ex credit, though. Michelle did put on a t-shirt with your guys' face on it, because Michelle is not in a good place with Doute either, right? And we flash back to footage that we didn't see of Michelle, having, Michelle, I'll buy that t-shirt off you. And we have like a talking head that we never saw where Michelle was like, amazing, now I have to wear Kristen's face on my body. Cool. And he says, looking back, was it everything you hoped it would be? And she says, beyond. Absolutely. And then Andy, this is the sweet moment. She says, I have to say, Kristen, having known you for so many years on and off television, you have always had a certain level of chaos surrounding you. And there's a tight shot of Kristen rubbing her belly, which is sweet. And he says, it's been really fun to see you. It's been really nice, Andy says. And then Doute says, suck a dick, Cohen. No, Andy says, and you two really seem to complement each other. And Doute says, yeah, he loves me for who I am, and he handles me very well. And Andy goes, and everybody claps, And then Andy says, we need to take a break. We'll be right back. Yeah. We come back and Andy's like, Jesse, did you have a plan going into Hawaii to confront Aaron, the hot honey man, or have a conversation with him? I did always want to have the conversation, and I kept saying, well, my girlfriend called Michelle to set boundaries, but Aaron never did. That saucer-eyed freak. And then I had this realization, well, I'm also a man. I could call Aaron and set my own boundaries. And then he goes, and were you happy with the conversation? It seemed, so there was some intense moments, Andy, but there was a lot of I looked at him in the eyes, which are very huge eyes, and saying, man to man, I trust you or I believe you. And we flashed to that scene of did you or did you not cross a line when I was married to Michelle? And he said, no, absolutely not. And it was a good conversation. And he says, Michelle, what did Aaron tell you about the conversation when you got back to your room? I mean, he said it went well overall. It wasn't a disaster, and I think they got along in Hawaii. I mean, you saw the lap picture. And Brittany's like, yeah, there's a photo of them, and we see a picture of Jesse on Aaron's lap. There's Jesse on lap. And he says, since that conversation, how has communication been with Aaron? We spoke. There was a situation during the fires where, the Sunset Fire broke out and Michelle's apartment was in a warning zone. And we were evacuated at my house. Him and I spoke about them evacuating to his mom's house. And Michelle goes, yes, Jesse wanted to have Isabella stay, and I couldn't reason with you because I said that's not safe. So I had Aaron call him, and he said, what's the safest thing for your daughter? I think it's to bring her to my mom's house. That's an hour away, and they agreed. So then I was able to take Isabella. And then Jesse goes, yes, that was a little bit of my fault. Yeah, doofus, she just said it was your fault because I was mistaken where the mother lived. I thought she was out by Pasadena, which apparently she was further east and south. And he goes, okay, well, I'm glad things are positive between you and Aaron. Well, we're going to have to eventually move forward, and they're happy. They want to move forward. Well, spoiler alert, they're not. They're broken up. So what's the point of holding any animosity, I think? And he says, Kristen, you leveled an insult at Janet when you told Brittany in Hawaii, that she was a fan of Vanderpump Rules. And we flash to Doute talking to Brittany in that scene of how did she come into the group? Scheana, exactly. And he says, and that's where kind of all of this comes from. Why is being a fan of Vanderpump Rules creepy? I would love if Kristen said, well, first off, we love our fans. No. Doute says, being a fan of the show is not, and like I said, it kind of in the beginning, it was because of how she changed so much as soon as season 1 started. Janet's already shaking her head no. Doute says, another example I didn't even bring up was when Jax brought my ex-boyfriend on season 1. Remember that? When he kind of ambushed Luke and Luke saying, why would I give this guy a chance? Why would I want to be friends with the ex of my girlfriend? I just want to make sure that you're getting all the right stories, which is weird though, because then Luke did admit to hanging out with Sandoval, which, weird. Doute says, and then I see her fucking interview bites and she's blaming me for the relationship with that guy when she was literally one of my best and closest friends. We flash back to season 1, Janet talking head saying, I've seen you do things in that relationship that were wrong. And I've heard you tell me you made a huge mistake or you did something you shouldn't do. So when she kind of changed this narrative to Alex is the villain and that she's the victim, it made me look and go we all know that's not true. Doute at the reunion says, and Janet's sitting there bad-mouthing me on camera and I was floored. And he said, did you befriend, Janet, people like Scheana and Kristen to get on TV? And Janet's no. And Doute's it's not honest. Janet says, I feel like the way you're framing this makes it sound like I have Good as Gold posters all over my childhood bedroom. First off, I said last week, if Good as Gold posters existed, I would have them all over my bedroom. Secondly, that the timing wouldn't, Janet wouldn't have been a little girl when Good as Gold was popular. Doute goes, no, I think that you're trying to be someone that you're not. There's a shot of Jax just laughing ha, 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 ha. We flash back to, oh my God, is that Janet watching Good as Gold? Wait a sec. Okay, wait, because they do a flashback of Schwartz in 2015. No, that's not Janet. Anyways, we see just Scheana performing Good as Gold. Iconic. I don't care what anybody says. I love that fucking song. It's not as good as Raise Your Glass, but it's up there. Janet says, Scheana would have told everybody. She would have loved that so much. And Doute goes, I think you've developed an alter ego, Janet, and that's who you are on camera. Janet goes, I didn't change when we got on camera. We were bad for a year before filming. And we too, and so Doute keeps saying, you have an alter ego and that's how you act on camera. And Danny and Nia are like, yes. And Jason goes, there's no specific example here. And Janet goes, okay, yeah. And Danny goes, we've said so many examples. And Jason goes, you guys didn't even know us before the show, referring to Danny and Nia. And Janet goes, yeah, I didn't know you guys before cameras went up. And Nia goes, you weren't the first couple to come over and meet our children, our daughters, when they were born? The first couple dancing with our son in our living room? We didn't know you before we were filming? And Janet goes, that was one time I was at your house. So obviously they got together before filming started, I'm guessing, when that scene happened. Nia goes, one time we didn't go to LACMA together. We haven't spent time at group gatherings together. So Nia's saying all of these times that we've hung out. Nia goes, you were the first friends to meet our daughters when they were born. And Jason goes, because we really hit it off. And they're like, exactly. And Nia goes, don't you dare say we weren't friends. We didn't know you before filming. That's wrong, Janet. And they're like, well, it was just a month before. Doute goes, and like May, when Brittany wanted to have everyone over so she could all, hang out like a pool party. And this is weird. This is where Nia turns to Danny and goes, I don't want to start having contractions. And I'm like, oh, that's all we need. In fact, if she was having contractions, I've really said this since day one. I want a baby to be born in the Sir alleyway. I know either that or Dorit's room at Buca de Beppo and Encino. But Doute is saying, like, Brittany had, before filming, she had a pool party. You, me, Michelle, and Brittany were all hanging out. And Nia turns to Danny, I can't stand them lying. And Danny's like, I know, just calm down. And Nia's like, lying over and over and over again. Janet goes, why did you ask me if you were welcome in my home for Ariana's birthday if everything was perfect back then? Well, maybe it's because, like, Doute's a vampire and you need to invite vampires in for them to come in. I don't know. Doute goes, I didn't say it was perfect. And Janet goes, okay, but if everything was good. And Jason goes, it wasn't like this. And Doute says, we were friends for a long time. And when you started filming, you acted differently, Janet. And Janet's like, well, when we started filming, you announced that I said Michelle was racist, which I didn't. And that changed a lot for me. And Doute goes, oh my God, I didn't make it up. And he says, so Janet, on the boat on the last night in Hawaii, you said Danny had sexually assaulted Jasmine. Ugh. And we flash back to that scene. Well, because that was a choice of Janet using that specific verbiage. Right? That was and I knew it was going to activate Doute in that moment. Knew. I don't think you use that verbiage if you don't know. And he says, you had just made peace with Danny and Nia in the pool. Why go there, Janet? And Janet goes, honestly, once we started talking, Kristen said, you've been attacking Danny and Nia. You've been attacking Danny and Nia. And I felt like I'm not attacking somebody. And then I proceeded to attack Danny. No, but Janet goes, this guy did something pretty horrible. And I think we have to address that. So I thought it was serious. She thought it was serious, pointed to Jasmine. And I used the legal term for the definition of what he did. And Doute goes, because it hadn't been addressed already like 40 times, right? And Janet goes, why did you bring their names into that conversation? And Doute goes, you attacked them, so I was being a bitch. That's exactly what I said. That's why I was wasn't just bringing up Danny and Nia. I said, that's why I was an asshole to you. And he said, Kristen said you were attempting to ruin someone's life who doesn't deserve it. Were you? And Janet goes, I guess if you do the things you did, I think you are responsible for your actions, not me talking about your actions. If the allegations against you were not true, that would absolutely be on me, that I was trying to just ruin your life. But I think that if you put your hands on women without their consent, you have to own up to that. And he goes, so touching someone's butt is sexual assault, Andy says. And Janet goes, yeah, by definition. And then Jason goes, it's actually like battery. And Zack goes, we looked it up. And technically it is. And Andy goes, battery? And Jason goes, because you're touching. Assault isn't necessarily touching. A battery is a touching. And Danny goes, saying those words are very, very powerful. And Janet goes, okay, well, don't do things that classify as a definition of that. And Danny goes, I have owned up. And he's like, he's owned up. He's taken accountability and will continue to because that's his character. It is interesting. Like, Nia speaks a lot for Danny. And it's very interesting. But Danny's like, we did multiple apologies to each other. And he was like, to try to get to a good place. We were trying to get on a better place. And we wanted to be there. And then the next day, you start throwing these words around like crazy. Jenna goes, when I'm being told I'm attacking you guys, I'm going to respond to it. And Doute goes, Melissa even yelled at you and Jana and said enough. And Jason says, it's not your collateral damage in this. Oh, it's so dark, that moment. But Jason says you guys are collateral damage in this conversation between Kristen and Janet. Even Jason realizes that. Like, this couple, was not in that direct fight, and they are being used as a pawn. Even though Danny did do some really bad behavior, right? They are being used. It's like they got pulled into it when they weren't even up there on that conversation. Andy goes, Janet, you know you're using a loaded term. And Doute's like, why did you use the term? And Jasmine's like, well, I mean, she's not wrong, I guess. And Jenna goes, when Jasmine and I first talked about this, when she said he was grabbing, this person's ass, Melissa's ass, my thighs. Okay, what is this person's ass? Melissa's ass, we know. My thighs is Jasmine. Who's this other person's ass? And Janet goes, making sexually explicit comments like, call me daddy. Maybe he was talking about the podcast. No, Janet says, that's not funny. I said, that's sexual assault. And she said, yes, and it's not fair. This happens all the time to women. And none of these guys, none of these idiot men, I think you said, ever have to face consequences for it. It's so interesting how much conversation we hear from Jasmine from other people. Doute talks about the text messages where Jasmine's talking shit on Janet. Janet's talking about Jasmine, saying about all of these men and how they need to kind of pay for it. Nobody gets, which I do tend to agree with. But it is funny that Jasmine's not coming out with it. These people are bringing Jasmine's words out for everybody. I don't know if these are meant for us. Hey, you guys, you don't know it, but I've been gone for the last 5 hours. So if you're watching this on YouTube, I had a costume change. I'm like Cher during a concert. No, I was trying to get this finished before we had tickets to go see the Grateful Dead. They had a Grateful Dead movie that came out in 1974 or 76, I guess, and they were playing it one night only in IMAX. So we Rebecca and I just went and saw it, and it was great. Really, I never got to see Jerry Garcia play a concert with the Grateful Dead. I've seen Dead and Company a bunch, but it was so great to see Jerry Garcia up on an IMAX screen. And it was so funny, you guys. Everybody is so drugged out in the audience and doing like the Grateful Dead hippie dance and stuff like that. Oh, truly magical. But the music is just mind-blowing. I didn't used to be into jam bands when I was growing up. And I think jam bands, I don't love that term because they're just such amazing musicians. Anyways, you're here to talk about the Valley. Who thought this was going to happen? And right when we left, Taylor Swift's New Heights podcast dropped, so I have not been able to watch it or listen to it. So come back on Friday's episode where we'll talk about the New Heights Taylor Swift interview. And we've got word that today, by the time you're listening to this, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City Season 6 trailer will have dropped. So we'll put that into Friday's episode as well with the OC recap. It's going to be another big show to take you into the weekend. Let's finish this up. And by the way, we're going to talk about something that happened while I was at the movie theater. I saw this post. And we're going to read it because it ties right into the Valley, okay? So where we left off, it was like max toxicity. And Janet was talking about Jasmine saying, the men and the consequences. And Doute screams out, you're just trying to make them fucking look bad. And Janet very calmly says, yeah, we definitely should sweep that behavior under the rug. And Nia's like, no one's sweeping anything under the rug. And Danny's like, who's sweeping under the rug, man? I have 4 under 2 in Santa Clarita. And Jason calmly says, you're trying to. And Luke now even gets into this. Luke, Mr. Quiet Shorts guy, is like, it was addressed 20 times. And Doute's screaming, time and time and time and time. And Nia's screaming over and over and over and over again. And Janet goes, I'm being asked about it right now. And Kristen says, what the fuck do you keep bringing it up for when it was talked about? And then Jessie Lally is like, I'm going to be the one I will be the one to fix this. He goes, first of all, hold on a second. The only person that should be able to say what it was is Jasmine and Melissa. And everybody's like, agreed. Even Danny goes, thank you. And Janet says, and Jasmine's green with me. Jax looks like he's on his last legs. They keep like going to a reaction shot of Jax, and he's just in his head. He's like, make me a bird so I can fly far, far away. You know, he's like, oh God, maybe that rehab center wasn't that bad. Jasmine goes, I was very upset. And Danny goes, that's why Melissa said, stop talking about it, Janet. Nobody wants to talk about it. And Janet goes, you asked me to stop talking about it other than when I've had 2 interviews. I apologized for them. And Jasmine goes, yes. And are we ever going to get past this? Because now I'm getting angry, Jasmine says, and it's going to make me get more angry at Danny again. And Andy goes, so when she brought it up again on the boat, what was your reaction, Jasmine? And Jasmine goes, I was sick as hell on the boat. Melissa jumped in, and I think she was just telling everybody to shut up and stop talking about it. And Brittany goes, I was sitting right there, short. And you guys asked us to stop, and I was shining my phone light on my food. And she apologized, and you guys were okay. Andy goes, Andy goes, wouldn't it be great if Andy goes, hey, by show of hands, who thinks Janet is a Karen? He's like, I don't trust that first vote. Now he goes, by show of hands, who thinks that Janet was being reckless in using that term? Okay, so now we got some action. Danny raises his hand. Danny raises her hand. I'm sorry, guys. I don't feel well today. Danny raises his hand. Nia raises his hand. Dodie and Luke both raise their hand. Jesse raises his hand. Zach raises his hand. Michelle Lally does not raise her hand. It looks like Jax doesn't raise. Brittany kind of does a half raise. She's like, I'm trying to fix this. I'm going to fix this strap because it's holding up my boob. I got my huge boob shorts. Like, guys, it is so fun. I don't think anybody notices. Brittany is trying to fix the strap on her dress. And I think she's like, later on, she goes, I was trying to raise my hand, you guys, but my boobs are going to fall out. My big old titties. Jasmine goes, I think she was coming from a good place, but at the same time, and Kristen goes, I want to know what you think you were trying to accomplish. And Nia's like, it was not a good place. And Danny goes, she was coming from a malicious place. So Kristen goes, what were you trying to accomplish by saying that term on repeat? And Janet goes, what would you have preferred? Groped? Molested? Like, what would you have preferred? Yeah, I'm going to go, you know what? Maybe I say groped or molested. We're in really dark territory. I mean, none of those words are funny, but that's why it's funny, because it's so fucking dark. Is this the first time we've heard groped or molested on a reunion? I don't remember Vanderpump Rules season 5. Andy going, God. And anyways, Nia almost chokes on her tongue. She's like, oh my God. And Danny goes, molested? And Jesse goes, he made a mistake and he apologized. It's one of the, did I, like Janet being the Urkel, did I just say groped or molested? Oops. So Janet did the same thing she did on the boat, but she actually tripled down by then bringing up molested and groped, right? So Zach and Jasmine are having like a side conversation saying, I felt like that way in the beginning, but I don't know. And by the way, this really has to do with Jasmine and Melissa. And this is such a delicate conversation that I always say, I don't know if the Valley is equipped to handle it, right? And he goes, we need to clear this up. And he goes, Jason, as an attorney, is it potentially defamatory? And then Kristen shouts out, he's a workman's comp attorney. And then Jason goes, I also went to law school. And she repeats again, you're a fucking workman's comp attorney. And then Nia's going, she's lying. Andy goes, you understand nothing could happen in a court of law. If she had pressed charges, Andy's like, clear this up. If she had pressed charges for touching the ass, and Jason goes, I mean, I doubt that like the DA would pick it up. It's not like there's like not a lot of damages. It's like a bad thing that happened. It's not like, he's going to do jail time. Okay. Hey, Danny, don't worry about it. Jason says you're not going to probably do jail time. And then Andy goes, so then why use the term? And Dodie goes, thank you, Andy. And Jasmine goes, that's where I think it got thrown off. And Jenna goes, okay, you know what? I'll never use the term again. Yeah, you only need to use it the once. I mean, who can, like, the Jason Ring rumors, you're never probably going to hear a lot about that ever again. I can assure you the SA allegations will be with Danny for the rest of his life. And maybe that's what they want, and maybe that I'm not the arbiter. Obviously, this man did something to Jasmine, but we do not have enough information on the rest of those things, right? And then Jason goes, I can speak on why she used the term. And Danny goes, she loves to hurt people. And Nia goes, exactly. And she loves the drama. And she loves attention. Oh, I don't think these guys are ever going to be fake friends again. Andy goes, Nia, you wanted to say what? And Nia goes, I just feel like there needs... And Nia's like, get in the cage right now, Janet. Cage match, me and you. I'm using my adult woman voice right now. No, Nia goes, I just feel like there needs to be clarity because there are words and things that are thrown around that are not true. Yes, there was a terrible incident on Halloween night. That's the devil's night, you guys, that Daniel has taken full accountability for and will continue to as much as he needs to, as much as Jasmine or Melissa wants to bring it up, if they want to bring it up. So, man, I want Nia running my, campaign. Yes, that's all the right things to say. Nia goes, second, you have said multiple times, this has happened multiple times over and over again. When you say multiple times, you're literally saying to assassinate his character as a person. And I think you need to be very careful with your words. And Doute goes, don't fucking smirk, Janet. Listen to her. She listens to you talk. And Nia continues, you literally just said this has happened multiple times. That is not true. I just need you to be intentional and careful with your words because Doute says, I'm so fucking mad right now. No one is trying to sweep anything under the rug. To put things out there that have not happened are not okay. And Janet just goes, okay. God, this reminds me when my sister used to get yelled at by my parents, and you could tell she was like, she was just like, I don't deserve any of this. So she'd be like, okay, that's the vibe. Danny goes, you know that those words can ruin. And Janet goes, yeah, there's lots of words that have been dropped among this cast that can ruin people. Yeah. Not wearing your ring is not one of them. And then, but Janet does go, you said Michelle was a whore on camera. And Danny goes, I didn't say that. And he goes, he never said those words. Another lie. We have a shot of Michelle, and Michelle looks like she's completely dissociated. She's just like, I don't know where I'm at right now. Janet goes, you said, I heard that Michelle sleeps with a billionaire for $1,500 a night on camera. Is that not damaging to her reputation? And Danny goes, that's what you're talking about? You put words out there. And then Jason goes, are we not allowed to paraphrase? And Michelle goes, she's saying this is damaging for everybody. It's a disaster. Google my name. Now it seems that I'm a hooker. Okay, wait. You know what? Let's do it. Let's do a quick Google Michelle Saniei. Okay. This is what comes out when these are the top results. Michelle makes some updates to her home after her split from Aaron Nosler. Where does the Valley go after the season 2 reunion? The Valley cast member was nervous to meet Andy Cohen in unseen reunion footage. Aaron Nosler's ultimatum for Michelle Saniei before split revealed. Nothing about it being a whore. Or nothing about being a lady of the night. Nothing. There is no, when I Google this, that doesn't come up at all. The top Googled searches for Michelle are Michelle age, Michelle net worth, Michelle Wikipedia, Michelle Lally Reddit, Michelle husband, Michelle parents, Michelle ethnicity, Michelle birthday. Those are all the top, unless she can you pay somebody to clean up your Google search? But there's nothing. So I think Michelle, we're good on this, Michelle. You've survived the Valley season 2. Doute says, Daniel never said Michelle's a whore. Janet goes, Danny said that she is sleeping with men for money. And Luke has prayer hands with his head in his lap. And Doute goes, what a bunch of dumbasses. And Nia goes, you just have all of this wrong. It's wild. And Janet goes, okay. Doute goes, I feel stupid listening to them talk. How do you think I feel? I'm like Forrest Gump at this point. And he goes, let's move on. Dayna goes, it's just ridiculous. Zack goes, I can't deal with her. Jasmine goes, oh my God, I can't with any of this right now. And Zack goes crazy. So I'm so curious where because Jasmine does seem to like shit talk Janet under her breath or kind of put some things out there, or at least to Zack. And Doute said, it's so wild. And Michelle just seems so detached from the proceedings, right? And he goes, let's switch gears. What did you guys think of Love Island USA this season? It'd be great. Hey, do you guys like Christopher Nolan? Let's switch gears. Did you guys like that new Superman movie? Let's go around and just talk about it. No, and he goes, when they returned home from Hawaii, Michelle threw a Zen party. But all the koi fish and bonsai trees in the world couldn't bring peace to this chaotic friend group. Brittany, the last time we saw you and Zack together in the show, he was screaming at you. Oh no! How have things been between the two of you since filming Wrapped? And Brittany goes, oh my God, I love Zack. We are together every single week, multiple times, doing shorts. I'll tell you to him every single day. We are in a much, much better, in a better place. I was so shocked that night and watching it back because I was nowhere near the conversation. And we flash back to the finale where Zack goes, you know what that bitch has done. And Brittany goes, don't be pointing in my face. Calm down. And then he goes, okay, basically just what I'm asking, are you too good? And she goes, oh yeah, I love that sugar booger. Uh-huh. And he goes, you two have been buddies for like 20 years. Yes. Where did you meet? Well, I used to cheer for EKU, and one of my friends that cheered with me, he dated. And he goes, you dated a cheerleader? And Zack's like, yeah, girl. And then me and Zack stayed best friends. And eventually the other guy got crazy. And he goes, did you move to LA when she moved to LA? And Zack goes, I was either going to move to New York or LA. I was finishing my MBA, and it was like 6 months before, and then she met Jax. And then she moved, and I was like, oh, great. I'll come and say hi, and I'll see you in 6 months. So could we then, or will Janet ever say, well, I was kind of waiting for Janet or Jason to be like, well, doesn't that mean you're kind of a fan? Like, you heard it was Jax, and then that potentially swayed you to move to LA because he was on Vanderpump Rules at the time? And he goes, Danny, Jax stopped inviting you to things. Uh-oh. Oh no, I didn't get to go see Freakier Friday with Jax. But Andy said, stopped inviting you to things towards the end of the summer. You were essentially getting blocked by Jax. Why do you think he did that, and how did it make you feel? I think he did it, Andy, because he wanted to be able to talk behind my back. And then he would just go off and say, oh, he's probably out drunk somewhere. When I was literally at home with our kids, putting our kids to bed. And he goes, is that why you said that you heard that Jax had slept with his staff at the bar? And we flash back to that scene where Danny was like, yeah, I've heard he sleeps with his staff. Jasmine goes, I didn't know that. And he goes, you all have heard the rumor? And Brittany goes, there was a rumor about one of them. And Jax goes, who? Which staff member? I'll fire them at the bar that I got kicked out of that I said I stepped away from. Jax goes, tell me who? And we hear Brittany underneath go, I figured out that wasn't true. There's another girl that I don't know, though. There definitely was a rumor, Danny. I'll back you up on that. And Jax goes, yes, there was a rumor, but I've never slept with my staff. There wasn't a lot of sleeping going on. You know what I'm saying? High five, Danny, you fucking freak. Brittany goes, remember I went crazy on you about it because Jax goes, she did. Women, right? And Danny goes, and I heard it from some of your friends that go there quite often as well. And Jax goes, they made jokes about it because they're hysterical because it was at a bar. And then Brittany goes, Luke, what do you know? Luke, come out with it. Luke goes, you came in with one of your ladies to a bar where I was at? How is Luke? What bar? What is this, the fucking Foxfire? The bar they all go to on, what is that? Not Witsit. Magnolia? But Luke goes, I don't know if you guys went home and banged or not, but I know you were. Luke, the term is made love. I don't know if you two went home and made love or not. But Jax is like, what are you talking? Jax is like, can you tell me what you look like? Do you have her social security number? And then Brittany goes, Jax should not own a bar. Hey, Brittany, good news. He never really truly owned the bar. He didn't put any money into it. And he's now decided to step away from it, even though his partners asked him to leave. So you are in luck, Brittany. The sad thing is you're also a loser because it's potentially going to come after you for alimony. But Brittany goes, he's got a lot of issues. He shouldn't open a bar. He shouldn't be running a bar. Andy goes, all right. Jesse, I heard that even though she wanted nothing to do with this season, your girlfriend came to Michelle's Zen party. Yes, Jax and I had actually met earlier, and I wasn't planning on going to Yamashiro. You weren't planning on going to the season finale? And I didn't think Jax wanted to either. And at the end of the night, I was supposed to be at a birthday dinner for her at Chateau. I love it's called Chateau Marmont. At Chateau. Jesse loves name-dropping Chateau Marmont all the time. Jesse goes, and she called and said, are you guys done? And I said, yes. So she came by. And he says, Michelle, how were your interactions with Jesse's girlfriend that night? And Brittany goes, and Brittany goes,
It was terrible. It was terrible.
And then Michelle goes, they were not good. It was a disaster, but I don't feel comfortable talking about it. My lawyer said that I shouldn't. My workman comp lawyer, Jason. Andy goes, I heard that you had a massive screaming match after cameras went down. And Michelle's just quiet. And then Brittany goes, she's told not to talk about it because of her threats. And he goes, got it. That's why she's not wanting to talk about it. And then Doute goes, guys, can we not do this shit on season 3? Like this legal fucking, can we film a show? It's so exhausting. Everybody goes, yeah, that's no real. That was nobody's fault but hers. And Jesse goes, we're going to talk about stuff like that. And Michelle goes, I'm actually not talking about it. Jesse goes, she's not here to defend herself, his girlfriend. Andy goes, well, I know she showed up at an all-cast event at 10:30. And then Andy goes, and then made a legal threat. Michelle goes, it was very clear that everybody was still filming. Andy, they picked up cameras and put a boom mic over our head as soon as she walked in the restaurant. And this is where fucking Andy Cohen is check out the name tag, bro. It says, Andrew Cohen, you're in my world now. Sit down and shut up. So Andy goes, as they should have. They were doing their job. If your girlfriend showed up today, you know what I would do? I would stick a mic on her and get her in here. And then Brittany goes, yeah, amen, chicken burger. And Doute goes, that's how it works. And he continues, this is a hot set. This is a show called The Valley, motherfucker. He just says this is a show called The Valley, but the subtext was motherfucker. And he goes, that's your girlfriend? I want to talk to her. Bring her out. Let's get her on the phone. And then Jasmine snaps her fingers like, girl. And then Andy goes, you understand? And then he gives a head bob. You want to come at me, Jesse? Huh. He does a little rooster head bob. You understand? You understand, son? What's up, young? What's up, young lud? You want to come at me? My name's fucking Andy Cohen, young. What's up, young? What's up, son? You want to come at me? And Jesse Lally, it's like that, what is that scene? Was that A Few Good Men? No, it's Top Gun. You understand me? Are we clear? And then Tom Cruise is like, Crystal. So Jesse Lally's in that Top Cruise, Crystal. And Jesse Lally just goes, yeah. And then Andy goes, okay, we'll be right back. And Zach, you tell, he's fully boned up. He's like, hot. And then we go to our last commercial break. We have an addition to this scene that was on the old interwebs tonight. So this comes from Vanderpump Recaps again. I talked about them earlier in the show. You got to give them a follow. Man, God bless these people. They said Lacey, who is Jesse's girlfriend, commented this on the @TheBravoholic TikTok. So I guess there's a TikTok account called @TheBravoholic. And this says it's from Lacey. This is Jesse's girlfriend. But let's just throw the word allegedly in there for shits and giggles, right? This is what she writes. Okay. Well, now I low-key want to defend myself, LOL. I never threatened anything legal to Michelle after this night. I was never suing her. She didn't have a lawyer. I sent her and only her one letter in June regarding a statement she filmed saying where she said, I endangered kids. This is both damaging and untrue. She personally replied, no lawyer needed, and said she won't say that again. I don't know how that steamrolled into her and Janet dragging me about being Sue happy. By the way, I've never sued anyone in my life, LOL. I felt totally backed into a corner about looking like a bad parent / person at the finale. So we're talking about Yamashiro. I showed up after cameras went down, so it wasn't a closed set. Her drunk boyfriend grabbed me. Aaron the hot honey dude. Her drunk boyfriend grabbed me, ... Ellipses are so threatening, you guys. And I left. Her drunk boyfriend grabbed me and I left. Uh-oh, Pantry Aaron. That's what happened. Jasmine has a video. Michelle begged her to delete, I assume because she is screaming, not me, and hope they air the security footage. ! XOXO. Gossip girl. No, she doesn't say gossip girl, but XOXO. I think that's a declaration of Lacey saying she wants to be on season 3. Is this what potentially... No, I mean, because they were together for a long time after this. I saw Michelle and Aaron at Kathy Hilton's holiday party in December, and they had already finished filming season 2, so they were still together then, but Lacey is saying Aaron grabbed her? And Jasmine I love that Jasmine had her camera. Jasmine's turning out to be the MVP. So that's in addition. That's not something that was on the Peacock. None of this was brought up. This is what I'm telling you. There's so much shit we don't know, folks. Andy comes back from her last break. We are back with final thoughts from the Valley Season 2 reunion. This is when Andy tries to masterfully tie it all together of like, do you think we can all be friends again? Andy says reunions aren't just about rehashing the season. They're also about charting a path forward. Not for you, Jackson. I know. Andy goes, JK. And he goes, and I just want to hit on a couple relationships and see where we're at. You know, Jesse and Michelle, I would love to bring back the exercise from Santa Barbara. I'm wondering if each of you could say something nice about each other. And Zach's like, oh my God. And then Andy goes, Jesse, you start. Jesse goes, I loved Michelle for a very long time, and we had an amazing start to our relationship, and I think she's going to prosper and grow, and I think she found somebody that, like, gives her the nurturing and sort of the attention she always needed, because she's an attention whore. No, he didn't say the attention whore. And then that's it. And then Andy goes, I'm trying to think if that was nice. And Dodie goes, that was so nice. Okay, Michelle, Andy says. Michelle goes, say something nice now. Yes, Michelle. What the fuck are we even doing? Yes, now is the time to say something nice. And there's a big pause from Michelle. And Michelle goes, I mean, I've always said that Jesse is a great father, and I never wanted to take Isabella, and I like seeing the moments that you guys are together on camera, and it's very nice to know that you're a great father. He's a great dad to me, Mom. It's me, Isabella. Hey, guys, thanks for being with us all season. What a ride, huh? Can't wait I hope I'm back on season 3. I'm thinking about becoming full-time just to get these jackasses in gear, man. I'm going to be in every fucking closet, every pantry. If Danny comes back there, I'll be like, no, mister, you get out, right? I'm Isabella. And then, no, she says that. And then Brittany goes, Isabella's hilarious. She's a funny. She's like Bill Burr. She's like Dave Chappelle. And Jesse goes, spin-off. I love her. And he goes, Jason, do you feel resolved pretty much? Yeah, Jason's like, yeah, I feel resolved from my job. I think I'm probably going to get laid off soon. No, Jason goes, I don't. It's tough because I wanted certain things to go differently. And it's sad. He has tears in his eyes a little bit. And Jason goes, it's tough. It's just a tough experience. And he goes, Zach, do you have anything that you want to say to the group? He's like, my balls are killing me. This scrotox. I'm almost strangling myself with my nutsack. Tin root busted. But Zach pauses. There's a lot of pausing. And Zach goes, I mean, I think at least one person, Janet, I feel like if you can take accountability for the things you've done and I'll take the accountability for the things I've done, maybe we can move forward and make Brittany's life a little easier. Everybody goes, oh, yes, please. Yeah, thank you for saying my name. And he goes, well, we could start by maybe tonight you could unblock each other from social media. And Jenna goes, he is unblocked. And Zack goes, yeah, I blocked her this time. And Jenna goes, I'm blocked on his. And Zack goes, yeah, she unblocked me and then I blocked her. Oh my God, everybody's insane. And Andy goes, okay, so Zack. And Zack goes, I will. Okay. Do you want me to do it now? And so he pulls out his phone and unblocks. And Brittany's like, Hercules, yay, woo. And he goes, now, Janet, you can get a taste of all the content that Zack is serving. And Janet goes, I'm sure I've missed so much. And then Jason goes, does anyone care that I have Zack blocked? And Brittany goes, oh! And then Zack goes, you do? I didn't even notice. And then Andy goes, Jax, congratulations on your sobriety. And Jax goes, thank you. I hope you keep building on it. Me too. Where's your headspace as you leave tonight? My main objective here was just obviously to keep my job, to talk to Brittany and just to move forward and be peaceful to each other and be amazing co-parents to our son and just be peaceful to each other. I know I've done a lot and I'm hoping that she can forgive me one day. I'm not saying today. We have to be in each other's lives for a long time. And I think I've done a lot, not steroids. And I just hope she can find it in her heart to forgive me one of these days. Big silence. Andy goes, was tonight a good start, do you think, Brittany? Pause. Everybody goes, I don't know. It's hard. It's going to take a lot for him to prove to me that he's actually changing. And I'm sorry, but that's just the truth. Don't be sorry, Brittany. You're dead on right. And he goes, all right. Well, it's tradition to end with a toast. So, Peter, come on out with some traditional shots. No, it would be great if Peter. No, Andy goes, but with 2 new babies on the way, tequila shots didn't feel like the right move. So we have mocktails served in baby bottles. This should fucking all be just like Kool-Aid, like the Jim Jones Kool-Aid thing. Everybody just, it's arsenic. Anyway, so we're passing out these baby bottles and Andy's like, who's going to be the toast giver? And Jason's like, Brittany. And Zach's like, absolutely not, Jesse. We'll be here for another hour. This guy must have been really like talkative because they've made 2 jokes throughout the 3. So they must have edited Jesse's answers down. Janet goes, these are glass. These are nice baby bottles. Oh my God, I need this for my reality show museum. And Danny goes, do we get to keep these bottles after? Great, Danny's like, I don't feel comfortable drinking this. Do you have a pantry somewhere? No. And he goes, Brittany Cartwright. And Brittany's like, oh, Lord, pressure. Oh, my God, my tubs. Short. I think it's short. Brittany goes, okay, I just want to say congratulations on everybody for season 2. I know it's not easy. I think everybody really shared a lot. And I just hope that we continue this on because money is fun. No, she goes, I hope we can continue this on. New friendships, old friendships. I just hope that we can all come to a better place because I love every single one of you. And then he goes, and may this upcoming year be the best days of our lives. Cheers, everybody. And then they all cheer these baby bottles. And he goes, good night. For more on the Valley, go to BravoTV.com. And they all drink out of these. And then Jax turns to the guys and goes, congratulations on your first reunion. Hey, congratulations on your last, okay? And then we see Jax already texting on his phone. We see people taking photos with Andy. Jax goes, got to get the fuck out of here as he walks outside. We see some of the ladies packing up their clothes, Jesse taking off his makeup. And then Jax says, Brittany's, when do I get to see Cruz again? Monday? Tuesday? And Brittany goes, I don't know. I'll let you know. And everybody is leaving, smiling, waving as they're, oh my God. And that's it. Holy shit, you guys, we did it. What a very weird, dark season. And we'll probably do it again next season. Thank you for being with me here the entire season. I know this, I know I take this to extremes, but I really appreciate it. All the sappy shit I always say to you guys. Thank you, as always. But we don't stop here. We keep on going, man. We're going to recap a full season of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. We got Real Housewives of Orange County still. We're going to talk McBee Dynasty. We're going to talk all of the pop culture that you love. So don't go anywhere else. Stay here, okay? Have the best Thursday that you possibly can, and I will talk to you on Friday. Bye.